back for another episode of Cigars with Marines. And quick warning for all those civilians out there, this is not for you. Turn off any kind of trigger warning you can possibly imagine. This is not for you. This is a show for veterans. It's a show for Marines with Marines in it. You know what happens. Shenanigans happens when you get one or more Marine in the same room together. So that is your warning. And I'm joined here finally. We've been trying to make this thing happen for a long time.
Yeah.
Finally got this thing connected. Thanks to Christina for kind of lining it all up.
Yep. She facilitated this for sure.
Now, let me think of your introduction. Long time, absolute war killer, fellow Marine, good buddy. We've deployed together. Absolute rock star, actually a rock star. And my friend, Ben Fortier. How are you, sir?
Doing great, man. Thanks so much for having me. This is
right
great.
We shook hands. That's so polite.
Absolutely. Very formal here at Cigars
formal.
with Marines.
Yes.
We had this conversation about doing the show about like 8 months or so ago, and we're finally making it happen. I'm very happy and proud to be working with Casey and his team on Cigars with Marines. And is the smoking lamp lit?
Yes. Thank you. That's a good tradition. Maybe the new person to the show says that phrase.
Okay. I like that. There we go.
So,
we'll kick that off. The smoking lamp is lit, folks. If you're joining us out there with your cigar,
that's it.
I'm gonna be the purist.
That's right. Ben's a purist. For those listening, not everyone's watching us. We do have faces. At least I have a face made for radio. So that's okay. You don't need to see that on YouTube, but it is on YouTube. It's a lot of fun watching us. We got a cool backdrop here at Castro's in Nashua, New Hampshire. It's this old school cigar bar. Upstairs looks like my grandfather's house. So it's just a really cool place. And the cigars we're smoking today, these are the Hermitage. These are the Hammer and Sickle Hermitage. Well, you know thy enemy, right? So
yeah. So Hammer and Sickle. I was like, whoa, where are these from?
Smoking the Cubans, smoking the Hermitage.
Soviet bloc over here.
Right. Yeah, I know. Yeah, they're old. They're back from the days of the USSR. Mm-hmm. So Hermitage #1. These are out of Russia, Mother Russia. Fine cigar.
This place is fantastic, by the way. Thank you, Castro's, for hosting us here. We came up here. There were a couple guys up here, and they were joking around. Oh, there's a podcast coming in. We got to get out of here, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, get out of here. But this place is perfect. So we thank you, Castro's, for hosting us. These downtown Nashua, man. Very cool place. I'm from South Coast of Massachusetts, and I just love these old school like towns and stuff. You got your like little downtown area. This is like this is Main Street here.
Yeah, Main Street, Nashua.
Yep.
Main Street, USA.
It feels like it, man. It really does. I love this old school town.
It's nice. I like it. And, it's very realistic. We're going to talk about many things today. We're going to talk about old school times. We have some stories we'll be able to share because unlike some other guests, I actually know you.
Right.
Yes.
We have stories that
for better or worse, we've actually seen each other.
We can vouch for each other on some of these.
Yeah.
For better or for worse.
Exactly. So you say something clever. I'm going to light more of this. It's a tradition that I take too long to light my cigar on the show.
I think the point of this program, not only has it been, obviously it's geared toward Marines and veterans and things like that, but the initial idea of having this program is to just kind of do a little bit of networking, because you have a very successful podcast already.
Yep.
With your real world job as a marketing professional. Right. Yep. So Casey, if you're not familiar, Casey has a hardcore marketing podcast, and core is spelled CORPS.
Right. The only way to spell that. Somebody corrected me the other day. I was telling people, hey, it's hardcore marketing. It's spelled like the Marine Corps, not the Earth Corps. Mm-hmm. And the guy says, yeah, but it's spelled with an S. He's like Marine Corps, he's like hard corpse marketing. I was like, dude, do you not know English?
Yeah. Do you not know the play on words either? Come on.
Yeah,
bro,
no, he actually didn't even know that the S was like silent.
Oh, silent.
Silent. So I guess spelling for Marines, I should send him an MCI in the mail. Like, this is how you spell it.
But the point of this program, I think, was basically to kind of catch up with people and just kind of in your travels as a marketing specialist, networking is huge.
Yeah.
Right. So it's been a way for us to meet people and then kind of get them on the show and talk about their time in the Marine Corps, but also really talk about the time as they've gotten out. And I think that a lot of people really take advantage of seeing.
It's coming like right at you.
Oh, I'm sorry. And like hearing other people's paths and hearing their stories.
Right.
I really liked your conversation, their first podcast, Cigars with Marines. Your conversation with Mark Worcester, I thought. Was
Mark's cool.
I thought that was a fantastic conversation. And at first I was like, oh, this guy seems like a typical hard jarhead. But as he kind of talked about like where he's been, he's very well-rounded. I think that's fantastic that he's getting himself into healthcare and health and wellness through the cannabis industry. That's a fantastic up-and-coming industry.
Well, you brought up a great point, right? This show, when we were talking about what do we want to do here, first of all, it's fun, and it's a justification for coming home late, for the missus and smoking a cigar. I basically had it at that.
Yeah.
But a little bit more, it's talking about the old times, because I think what I think a lot of people miss is some of that just poking each other, talking about like making fun of each other, but sharing stories and sure, boot camp stories, but what other things too. Like, one of the Will deployed to some island somewhere. Right. And I was like, I didn't even know we go to islands.
I saw that image of that island. I was like, whoa, like this is like the Battle of Midway, like out in like the middle of nowhere, and it's like this horseshoe island.
Yeah,
it's
but no
like
native
crazy.
Women. It was all the Navy,
So nothing to.
But so it's like talk these stories, just shoot the shit, Oh, by the way, we swear if you're a civilian, you're still listening to this. I told you not to, but it's your fault now.
I mean, we want to gear this a little bit towards some civilians.
We though?
I mean, the ones that, because here's my thing is, as veterans, we need to realize that we have one foot in the military community, and we also have one foot in the civilian community.
That's a great friggin' point.
We got to bridge gaps, especially when it comes to the military civililian divide. So I know that there's going to be civilians that are listening to this. I'm going to share it with some of them. Sure. So I don't want to completely.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, my mother, and stuff like that. You're gonna my friends,
Mrs. Fortier. You're gonna let Mrs. Fortier listen to this?
She can hang.
I don't know if I can't swear anymore now. Like, what's going on?
So take some of those stories and make them G-rated.
Right,
it's gonna be hard.
Right, it is hard. But usually what happens is by the second half of this thing, the cork's usually out of the bottle, and the cigars is almost smoked, and then the stories kind of get a little more lurid by the time the thing starts. But so the two parts of this show is, first part, let's tell stories. Let's talk about the old times. Let's talk about the fun we had, right? And the things that we appreciate. It's all good. And I think the joke was always people that tell boot camp stories are boots. Right. But then when you get out, they're kind of funny, because I was talking with Frank, and that episode's not out yet. It's coming out. It'll be coming out soon before this one. And he was back in the day. Like,
really?
I joked with some of the other guys. They were back in the day. No, Frank, this is before the digi uniforms, and he was old school. And what was boot camp like for him? And a lot more fun, I hear.
A lot more fun. Like getting abused.
We're getting
so what years did he go in?
I don't remember, dude. I was smoking a cigar. I honestly couldn't tell you what years.
It just went in one ear and you got smoked away.
So we talk about the old school stories, and then to your point though, we're bridging that gap. Or we've got a foot, on the Marine Corps canoe, and then you got a foot on the shore, on the dock. Like the civilian world. And so we talk to these guys and Marines and each other about, well, what'd you do when you get out, and it's some folks you've already had on here, sound like they had some pretty squared away things that they got out. When I got out, I was like drinking and playing video games for a long time. But like talking about that, but then eventually if you can find that next mission, right, I think that's what we need, because it's such a cool mission when you're out there, high speed, low drag, doing your thing,
right?
But then you come back and you maybe get some disability pay, and you're sitting there and you're like, okay, what do I do today?
Now what?
Now what? So we talk about the now what is the second part.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
welcome. Take me back.
Yeah, welcome to the program. Well, to take you back.
Yeah, because I don't know if I've heard your stories,
That's true. That's true. And if we have, it's been a while. Well, for me, the military thing was always very appealing because of a sense of feeling like, okay.
Was that you too?
Yeah, it was me too. Okay, yeah.
So what? No one could tell, but this is realistic.
Our monitors were kind of cutting out.
Okay, Marines trying to deal with technology. Suddenly, my right ear didn't work, and I was like, "Look, I was in mortars, so we both were, and it's like maybe I launched a few too many." I'm like, "Oh shit!" Now's the time when my hearing, like, not now hearing, like, give me a couple more years at this. But okay, I didn't even touch a button. I just pushed something.
Yeah.
Now we have a right.
Sometimes when you have lots of wires and things like that, some things can get detached. Yeah. So. No, it's cool, man. This is a good opportunity for us to just kind of work through these things as they happen.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, military service was very appealing to me, and I grew up, I'm sure as you did, watching war movies and being just fascinated with the idea of service. And I think, especially people who join the Marines, and especially people who join post-Vietnam, because one of the biggest differences that we have now is there's no draft. Everyone that's in the military is a volunteer. So there's a certain element of conviction of I'm going to join because I want to either make a difference in the world or I want to make a difference in myself and all that stuff.
Or not go to jail.
We know those
But
stories.
It's intentional to your point. You're not falling into it. You did something and you had a choice and you chose it.
Yeah. Right. And especially I think for me the reserves was a nice option because not a lot of people realize that there are Marine Corps reserves. They usually kind of just put the reserves thing into like the whole National Guard camp and stuff. And there is a reserve element of the Marine Corps. And at the time that we joined, the op tempo was super high for reserve units.
It didn't really matter who you were.
No, it didn't at all. Like,
but take me back. So you growing up in Rhode Island, and just in high school, you're like, what? Do you remember when you made that call? So like,
I think I was kind of going back and forth between, Army National Guard, doing like military police and also, Marine Corps reserves. And I figured if I was going to join the Marines, I wanted to do combat videographer. I thought that was very interesting. And I thought I could make a career out of that.
It's a cool idea, but they always make those guys wimpy on the movies. You know? Like I watched some horror movie the other day. It's like a World War II horror movie on the airplane. And
Overlord?
Yeah. Did you see that?
No, I didn't, but I heard it looked really good.
I'm not really a horror movie guy. I just want to shoot the things that are bad. But
that's J.J. Abrams, his new movie.
But that's the thing. Then I was like World War II, so I thought, okay, let me watch this. And
so I got a combat camera guy in there, and he's
a camera guy puts a flash. They get dropped the day before D-Day in like France, and he puts a flash on his camera and he's like, let me get some good so that when sergeant comes over and he smashes it, or corporal who'd been in the Italy campaign comes over and he goes, oh, let me see that camera, that's a really cool camera, and you know what's coming. He smashes it and throws it in the woods. The guy's like, what? Of course the combat cameraman had another camera. I'm like, damn it. So clever. Pogue.
No, but I mean combat cameramen to me that were influential, Dale Dye. I don't know if you're familiar with who Dale Dye is.
Who's that guy?
He is, he was basically famous for his military advisory position, and he was a little bit of an actor in that movie, Platoon. Steven Spielberg's Saving Private Ryan. He did all the boot camps for that. He is the guy that made that movie feel realistic for when people like us are watching that and they're clearing jams and there's mortars going off. This is because Dale Dye, who was a legit combat wounded Vietnam, Bronze Star, I'm pretty sure, highly decorated combat Marine from Vietnam. He was a combat camera guy. And when he got out, shout out to Dale Dye. He's been awesome, dude. I've corresponded with him.
Yeah. Shout out, man.
And if you
strike
tell
a pose.
him, Dale Dye. If you reach out to him and you tell him that like you're a Marine and like you
is he a Marine?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he was a Marine.
Respect. Is he still around? Should we interview him?
Dude, if we could interview Dale Dye, that would be awesome. I mean, dude, to me, as a film geek and as a movie nerd, Dale Dye is like, he's the shit. So, anyways.
Okay, so you saw a lot of that stuff, and do you know about him before that, or?
I didn't at the time, but I knew that kind of stuff had a profound effect on me. You know,
right.
Growing up and consuming media that was geared towards, Band of Brothers, Saving Private Ryan, Platoon,
right.
Black Hawk Down,
the best movies ever.
Dude, some of these movies are just so fascinating in terms of like the human element of war, in terms of like what the actual battles, it's tough to like, because anyone who's in like a blood and guts field knows that it's moments of extreme boredom followed by moments, by very brief but intense moments of terror.
Right.
But it's mostly boredom. Mostly extreme boredom, and trying to find a way to survive that.
Yeah. Stay like sane in the board
right
times.
And if you're in the combat arms, trying to stay sharp enough to be able to, if somebody all of a sudden ambushes you or something, to be sharp enough to react appropriately.
Right. It's like 2 a.m. Downtown streets.
That's when, exactly.
You got to be awake, man. Red Bull probably saved my life millions of times.
Yeah.
Thanks, Red Bull.
Yeah.
And show is sponsored by.
Yeah, right.
That'd be awesome. Hey, Red Bull veterans, come on, man, sponsor us. But okay, so Combat Cameraman, okay, and
that seemed very appealing to me. But when I went to the recruiter, exactly. So here's the thing: as we want and see ourselves doing certain things, I went to the recruiter and I said, hey, I'd like to do combat camera. And they said that they only offered that to active duty. And I didn't want to do active duty. I wanted to go to college.
Right.
So that to me was a priority, to do the part-time thing, so that way I could go to school.
Yeah, makes sense. Get that sweet GI bill.
Which actually got way better after the fact.
Did it?
Yeah, they actually just rolled out a brand new GI Bill program. Thanks to our boy Pat Murray, who's a big wig up in the VFW. Shout out to Pat. Big wig up in the VFW.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he helped to
rose the ranks.
Yeah, yep. So, I feel like I'm all over the place right now. Thank you for reeling me in, man.
That's what we do, man.
You're a great host. You're a great host.
Oh, thank you, sir.
You're a great host.
$20 later every time. Maybe
slipping you a little.
People don't know. I get a compliment. I pay out $20. No, I don't. But okay.
So we ended up infantry because the reserves offered that, and I didn't want to do mortar T because I wanted to.
Yeah, no thanks.
I wanted to get in the shit.
Yeah.
At the time, I was like, you know what, man? If I'm gonna do the Marine Corps thing, I want to be surrounded by like-minded fucking grunts who want to be in the shit. And this was 2005, so 9/11 had basically kind of just happened.
Yeah.
It didn't sway me. It didn't push me to join.
Right.
It just kind of added to that conviction.
Yeah.
It was like, it gave me a new mission of like, let's go kill those fucking bad guys.
Now you got a target.
Right.
Yeah. They have names and they wear towels, and let's do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we kind of, it's nice to kind of have a mission in that regard. But when and it's funny because the things that you think of, after 9/11, you're angry, you hate, a certain group of people or something. And thankfully it's nice to be able to digest that after the fact and realize that, well, it's more complicated than that. It's way more complicated than just people that came over from Saudi Arabia or whatever the fact may be. But I think that there was a lot of rage that the entire country felt.
Yeah.
So,
but to your point, I had a good buddy. I went to college first. I did everything wrong. Don't listen to me, anybody. I guess if we get into the Marines, you did something wrong, right? Or right in that case.
Right,
but one of the things we're good at is maybe just by the training, is that there isn't really that racism in the Marine Corps. Like, we all bleed green, and you're around all these people, and you make jokes, and we're all just But at the end of the day, you're counting on someone. You don't give a shit what color they are, what
their background is,
from,
their economic
stature. How many times was I covered by someone who's in the Crips and the Bloods and the, like, I don't even care, but we're just like all there. So that was one of the cool things. But okay, so you wanted to do infantry. I totally get that, because it's like, if you're gonna join the Air Force, why not be a pilot? If you're gonna join the Navy, I don't know, why not be be
on a ship or something.
Be on a ship.
The typical,
join the
like,
Navy,
what you
be on a
think
ship.
of.
You're gonna join the Marine Corps, might as well join the infantry.
If you're not pulling triggers, what are you?
But little do you know, it's cool. And then you realize, when you're on a drill or something, or you're on a mission, you're the one sleeping in a cot if you're lucky, or an isomat on the on the ground in a weird position, and getting eaten by creatures. Whereas admin might be back in their in their fob somewhere, having 3 chows.
It is not a glorious life.
Not a glorious life, but you made that choice.
You do. And that's the thing, is that I like the fact that our drill instructors, when we went to boot camp. So here's getting back to, origin stories here.
Origin stories.
I joined with a friend, Mark Lawrence. You're out there somewhere out on the West Coast, raising a family and everything. Miss you, buddy.
What up, Mark?
He was very convicted. We together were like wicked. Like, we were the military dorks wearing camo around high school and shit like that, and sneaking around at 2 a.m, pretending that we're out on an op and stuff like that.
Question: Did you get the tat before boot camp?
The tap?
Tat.
The tat.
Did you get a Marine Corps tat before boot camp? No, because we know what happens to people that
do.
Right?
Oh, there was at least one in your platoon, huh?
Oh, you in the Marines now, boy? No, sir.
Right. Not yet, sir.
Not yet.
No.
Okay, but you were really motivated. You feeling that vibe, and
man, and
charged up.
And it was for me, it was going to be a difficult decision, because I'd never done anything like that before. I didn't really play team sports. I was not super athletic. I was really more into like arts and writing and music and stuff like that. So to me, the Marine Corps was super intimidating, super fucking intimidating.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what? If I can get through this, then I've proved something, not only, to the world, but to myself.
Right.
That I can overcome these types of challenges. So for me, Mark being there, he was very hardcore. Like, he became a squad leader, like almost right away, a super athletic, football player and all this stuff. So he really helped drag me through boot camp when I was having really
you guys
hard
in the same
times.
platoon?
Yeah, dude. Buddy program.
Great. Buddy program, same platoon. Okay, cool.
So that made it very, very, I wouldn't say easier.
No, but you got somebody going in.
Exactly. I could look across the squad bay and see a familiar face and be reminded of home, and be reminded of the fucking reason why I'm here.
Right. You don't need to write a letter to get that sort of like that connection with someone. That's cool. That's cool.
So what about you? I mean, I feel like you're usually the one doing the interviewing. Like, let's hear your story a little bit.
Sordid story, but by the time I get to boot camp, I kind of did it backwards, like I was saying. So I went to college, and I was a technical recruiter. So not that kind of recruiter. I was like trying to hire people for these tech jobs,
coding and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was cool. It was kind of a hunt. You like call people up and like, hey, you want a new job? And they're like, hold on a second. And you hear them like put the phone down and like slowly walk outside their cube to like the kitchen, be like, what do you got for me? I'm like
whispering.
I'm like, hey, I'm hiring. My company's hiring. But what was cool about that was, you were in the chase and everything was different, but I kind of felt like there's something missing. In the end, it was really boring. And so my dad was in the military. Both my grandfathers in the military. We kind of grown up he was a Air Force officer. So we'd grown up in like a military house, not like super strict. Wasn't a Marine Corps officer. I would be a different kind of person. At that point. He was in the Air Force, and
more chill, but still some discipline.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
Especially with the officer field.
Right.
They don't take just anybody and make them into officers.
Yeah. And he'd also been in the Navy prior to that.
Oh, okay.
He actually went from the Navy to the Air Force so he could stay at home with a family.
Right.
I was actually born when he was on a ship somewhere.
Wow.
So he got this is old school. He got a telegram saying it's a boy.
No kidding.
Yeah, like a telegram.
Yeah.
It's a boy. Stop. It's a boy. Stop. What should we name him? Hey.
Right.
And so I kind of always grown up around that. It was like a foregone conclusion. I was going to do something sometime. I just never had the opportunity. And you know, kind of on a whim, I was like, well, I mean, let's talk to people. And you probably can relate to this. The Army's like, oh yeah, come on. Hey man, like they're all chill. Like, hey man, we'll give you like 40 grand. And I didn't even know what that is at that point. You know, 40 grand. Like you don't even know. You're like, I kind of know what a couple $100 feels like.
Yeah.
I know what $1,000 feels like. Cause like the car payments are expensive, but you don't know what 40 grand is. So it's not even that real, but he's like, we'll give you 40 grand. You can choose whatever you want and we'll guarantee it and all this stuff. Oh, okay, cool. And then the Air Force was like, oh, here's what we do. A little bit less money, but here's what we do. We like do anything you want. I didn't even talk to the Marine Corps recruiter.
No,
I didn't even talk to them because they're crazy. To your point.
Yeah, right.
And I'd watch those Marine Corps commercials growing up with like the chessboard and the dragons. Yeah. And so,
flaming sword.
But they're like these crazy, crazy guys. A few good men. I mean, come on, right? So it was marketing actually. And now I'm in marketing, right? So it's kind of funny. I heard free helicopter rides at St. A's, a nearby college.
Okay.
And I thought, hell yeah, I'm gonna fucking helicopter. Let's do this. So I just show up and I get in the front seat. I was like a Huey or something like that, but it was a front seat with the pilot. It was a female pilot. Oh, okay, that's cool. So she's flying. She's like, hey, get on in. And not in the back either, in the front, right?
Like
with
in
the
the
pedals
cockpit?
in the cockpit of this
Whoa.
Huey landing on a quad of a college.
Yep.
And it was like, all right, this is legit.
rad,
and then you're
yeah.
flying all around the cities and towns, you know, and seeing that from above. You're just like, this is so cool. No idea, but that was the Marine Corps.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
They didn't even advertise it like that. That was just like, so that somehow I'm on their list now. So they call me in and I eventually go meet with them. And they had said things like, oh, okay. Hey, well, first of all, we looked at you. We don't want you. Right. I was like out of shape. I was just doing the civilian job thing, you know? And so we don't want you. Oh, that was the last part. No, the first part was like, we're not going to give you any money. We're not going to guarantee you really anything. And we don't want you. Right. I was like, and so something about that, I was kind of like, fuck you guys. Like, you don't really don't want me.
Yeah.
I can do this. It's a challenge, man. So like cue the Rocky theme song.
Sure.
Like, final countdown, you know? And, that summer I just sort of ran my ass off around the track in the local high school and slimmed it down and eventually met up with the recruiter. And they're like, oh, okay, this might work.
Wow.
This might work. And we just kind of kept going and eventually it was like, okay, let's do this thing. There's a lot of different things, but eventually ended up in boot camp. I think I was telling Frank in the last episode, I may have been given a few free drinks at the airport on flying down to boot camp, right?
Okay.
So I was older, right? A lot of everyone else was like
drink, 17,
18, 19 or whatnot. Out here I'm like 23 or something.
That's old for.
I know.
For when you're.
I paid for it too.
Surrounded by 18-year-olds.
Called me the old man in the Marine Corps all instantly. As soon as we learned about Smedley Butler, that was me.
Yeah, exactly. So your compatriots in your platoon were calling you that.
My friends, my amigos.
Were you the scribe immediately because you had the degree?
Who told you? So
dude, everybody that has a degree.
Lined up,
basically described,
you know, in a squad bay, and these guys, you know, you're just in this blur, and you're just responding, and they're like, "Has anyone been to college? Yeah, has anyone been to college? You know?" And then like my hand goes up. I'm the only one.
The only one, yeah.
I'm the only weirdo that's like there after college, and they're like, "Good, you describe." Like, I don't even know what that is, but like you're it, which was an interesting job to have. But I guess it kind of gave me a little bit of something to do, you know, throughout. And they actually kind of took it. I felt like they took it easy on me, maybe because there are a bunch of other fuck ups around there they got to fix first. Because I just do what you said. And I just, you know, you said scream. I'm like, I'll scream as loud as you want. Like, I need to go to the bathroom. Like, slam, slam, slam. Do whatever you got to do. But it was like the third part. I think it's like 3 parts.
Right.
It was the third part when I felt like they almost had a meeting. We're like, okay, things are going well. How about Scribe? He's kind of a bitch. Like, let's crank it up on him. I just remember being like, I feel like I got the heat that third phase. And, but it was cool. I'm glad they did.
Yeah. I think everyone unless you're like the major fuck up of the platoon, nobody skates through boot camp. Nobody. And I love David Goggins, his idea of like, if you're going to go to like boot camp or if you're going to go to special forces selection or something, don't fly under the radar. Get in there and get your shit kicked in. Get your shit kicked in, because you know what? When you get out into the real world, you're going to want that discipline.
Well,
you're going to want that hardness. You're going to want that ability to be flexible.
It's true. Like technically skating actually can hurt you because they're just trying to get you in shape and get you ready to square it away so you can kick butt and survive.
Right.
But I gotta be honest, like initially I'm just
I was all about skating.
You're just not even skating, just trying to like stay under the radar, right? So good on David, but like that guy's messed up. Like I'm just like trying not to get called out. So it's kind of funny I got singled out and like, oh yeah. And I think I shared this before, but I got kidnapped third phase of boot camp by some random drill instructor.
Okay.
So
from another platoon.
I think it's the same company.
Okay. Like the same like squad bay area or whatever, so you didn't go too far when they kidnapped you. Yeah.
He basically put me in the van and we drove to some other squad bay, and I was at the quarterdeck getting smoked, but solo with another.
No one
squad.
To save you though.
The other, no one to save. Exactly.
no senior drill instructor to come by.
That's
like,
enough. That's enough.
Yeah,
Stop. No, none of that. And I'm like, oh, no one knows I'm here. And no one cares about me here.
Exactly.
I'm like,
so
I am
just gonna kill
so
you.
Trouble.
Yeah.
And this squad, they're doing like mail, or they're like clean. They're just reading. It's like their free time.
It's their downtime.
They're just sitting on their boxes, and I'm getting just like smoked.
Oh, I love that
at the front.
I love that, dude.
And they're all looking at me like, "Who's this guy?"
Right.
Yeah,
that was other me. Bald recruit, man.
That was me. Like, oh, you know what? Yeah, we want to smoke the scribe, but we can't do it near seniors. So let's go ahead and take him
someone
away.
else to get it. Yeah. I wonder if the drill instructors had a meeting of the minds and they were like, "Hey, Staff Sergeant, blah blah blah. Why don't you get recruit Cheshire and get him a hard,
Yeah.
Just break him off a little bit."
And then senior be like, "Not too hard, guys." And
right.
then you'd be like, "Oh, okay, I know what to do in that situation. I'm gonna give it to my counterpart over here who doesn't even know him." And
clever.
Do you ever remember figuring out like vocabulary throughout that, and like how to talk like a Marine?
Yeah, they had their words for everything. And ink stick and glow beam and all that shit.
I remember trying those words out, and I accidentally told the senior drill instructor, like, "As you were."
Oh my god!
Like
I
thought it. I was trying to say like
as you were.
No, I was trying to say. I don't know. I was like. Okay, like, is this a good way of saying okay? No, it's not a good way of saying okay. And I was like, "As you were," and he looks at me, he's like, "Boy," I'm like, "Boy, what did you say to me?" And I was like, "Nothing." Run away. Run away. So yeah. Okay, so boot camp. How was it? Anything memorable stand out for you? Because we got a whole career to talk about here. But anything fun? Anything? Paris Island, right? East Coast?
Yep, Paris Island. Yep. Went down there with Mark. I don't know, man. I think like you, I tried to do my best to kind of stay out of the glaring eye, the Sauron's eye of the drill instructors, if you will.
How accurate is that, Sauron's
eye? Dude, I feel like it's pretty accurate. And it was like, in a kind of, dude, and throughout boot camp, I don't think anybody gets away from getting the heat turned up on them, at least for a week or two.
Yeah.
So, man, boot camp was
is it vague? It's just is your brain, maybe you're so hardcore that you just remember the fields, man. You just remember deployments, but anything stand out? Any like any blue light watches you had to do, or anyone run away from your platoon?
Run away. I think we had somebody.
Maybe just my company that had all the things happen to it.
Yeah, didn't you have some guy who like hid in like a porta-john or something, and they didn't?
I got a guy that got off the island. One of my guys.
Whoa.
He got off the island. Yeah.
Holy shit!
But we had the thing was that you had to like stand watch now.
Right.
So now there's like 2 guys on fire watch, and now there's 2 more guys on blue light watch, and you're like, dude, you just with your self-centeredness now, like 2 more people don't get sleep.
I mean, that I think preps people too, though, for the field, if you will, for deployments, because that's real, man. Like I don't want to jump around too much, but on our deployment, we had somebody who ran off post. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And there was, dude, it was like,
let's get into the field now. We're in the unit and whatnot. So yeah.
So boot camp was whatever, man. Like it was just kind of, I think as
salty. It's too salty to even remember.
Too salty. Stories. Yeah. No, I mean,
nothing. You got no boot camp stories? You're just straight.
Dude,
away,
you're
hardcore.
I had challenges, man. And it's not to say that I think everybody has challenge. For me, the biggest challenge was when they turned up the heat on me.
When did they do that?
They realized about halfway through.
Okay.
About halfway through, they realized I wasn't getting enough attention and started
Sauron's eye.
Yeah, dude. Sauron's eye focused on me. For me, the obstacle course was a big ass kicker.
Yeah.
And I got very soft, girly hand.
Look at those hands, folks.
All the time.
If you're listening on podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, you need to get on YouTube and look at his soft, girly hands. Look at those moisturized.
They're so moist. They're like
so
glistening right now. So my hands got torn apart.
Wow.
Wicked bad blisters, like super open sores and stuff. And once they realized, we had this stuff called New Skin. I don't know if you remember that or if you used it. Basically, it was like this stuff that you would apply on like kind of open wounds, and it would like kind of callus it over.
Oh.
So here we were, my hands were torn up from the rope and stuff like that. And here we were, like, we knew.
You got soft hands. I don't remember any of that stuff.
Yeah. So we, like, the next day or whatever, like, we were hitting the obstacle course again. So I was like, in like the bathroom, my hands are like shaking. I'm in like so much pain. Here's this kid like applying this New Skin stuff on my hands. And it's like, dude, no, we were going right back at it, man. And I think one time, I don't remember exactly the course of events, but I like pissed off the drill instructor or something, or like did something where like they were going to leave me alone because my hands were so torn up.
Right.
And then I pissed off the drill instructor, and then they quarterdecked me like with my like open sores. And they didn't give a shit. They didn't give a shit.
Yeah, I love it.
I mean, there were aspects, dude. Basic warrior training kicked my ass.
What was that?
That was that whole week between, I think it's the week leading up to the Crucible
week. Okay.
So it's the week leading up to it.
Yeah.
And that's when you do like your combat oriented stuff, like you're turkey peeking over the walls, and you're doing like the crawling through the mud and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, the mud.
So that was like that
machine gun fire overhead.
Yeah.
That was neat. Oh, but yeah, that would not be neat with messed up hands, man.
Yeah. So, dude, but I was just broke off like that whole week. I don't know if I was sick or just.
I see why it's a blur for you now. Yeah, you're like trying to forget. Like, that was rough.
I tried to push some of that stuff in the recesses of my memory.
Right. See, it's surfacing now. This is Marine Corps therapy with cigars. Mm-hmm. When you mentioned your hands, though, I did have one incident that now it's resurfaced. You remember the rappel tower? I had one of those, they give you gloves and you slide down this rope, fast rope down, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm fast roping, and those gloves are actually important. Yes. You kind of need those to be good. They don't need to be new, but you don't need holes in them. And I had a gigantic hole in one of my gloves for the fast roping. And by the time I got to the bottom, there was like no skin on part of my hand.
Yeah.
So not as much as your hands, I'm sure, but I just remember, and then it's like, okay, good, keep going. Like, it's not like, pause. Mm-hmm. This is not the Coast Guard here, people. Shout out, hey, Coasties, get out of here. But yeah, I just remember being like, okay, I guess I just got to like continue now.
Yeah. No, I mean, for me, like the typical stuff that like people talk about, like the gas chamber, didn't affect me at all. Like I thought I breezed through that. I felt, I think everybody kind of has their own thing. Everybody has a thing where you will go to boot camp and you will just hit a wall. Yeah. Proverbially or literally, you will hit a wall.
Yeah.
Like
some kids in swim qual. Stuff like that.
Swim qual for some people. Rappelling, I feel like I excelled at that. My drill instructor was actually like, "Oh, Fortier, you're actually good at something." But shout out to my high school, because we had like a rappelling tower at my high school, so I had done rappelling before. So a little bit of experience went a long way. But, But yeah, man, I think that for all of you who are interested in joining the Marine Corps,
we're gonna let Poolies listen to this.
Poolies, why not? You're welcome. Future Marines,
welcome, Poolies.
Future Marine Poolies.
Don't go get a tat before you
do not do that.
Yeah.
But I think that everybody's when they join, when you go to boot camp, you're gonna have a moment or two, or a phase, or a sequence where you're gonna hit the wall, and you just gotta. That's when the rubber meets the road. Yeah. That's when you find yourself. That's when you realize what you're made out of. Right. It's not the stuff that you float through. Right. It's the shit that makes you, you're getting forged under pressure, and hard weapons get forged with great pressure and great heat. Right. So
I remember learning to take care of myself. You know, I think, if you go to work hungover in the civilian world, probably not a good idea. It's not good career advice, I don't think. And I don't condone this. But that's not like you're gonna, it's not gonna necessarily hurt you, unless you're some extreme, like you're actually messed up and you go into work and you work with something that's dangerous, like a kitchen or something. But it's not really that hazardous. But I just recall being like, man, I got to make sure I get sleep. I got to make sure I drink water. Man, I was like afraid of going tits up and being a heat casualty,
dude.
I was just, because this was summertime. When did you go?
Yep.
Summer.
So I think we were right. I think you might have been like the series after me or something.
I think
we went very close.
I think so.
At the same time. When did you graduate?
I was like June to August or something.
Okay, so I was you were June, August. I was June to September.
Okay.
So
I don't know. I'm smoking.
You must have been June to, but you were
September-ish.
Yeah, so you graduated probably a week or two
right
after
around the same
me.
time. So it was South Carolina. It gets freaking hot.
Super hot. I passed out.
Did you?
I was in.
Oh my God, you were a heat casualty?
No. I mean, I was.
If you're in the chow line, it's okay.
I was in the chow line. It was super early. It was for a breakfast.
Yeah.
And we were all fucking. You know how they like nut to butt you. Like, when you're in the chow line, you're like fucking like
get in there.
Right next. It's like sardines.
Get in that room.
Dude, all I remember all of a sudden is like I started feeling like wicked bad vertigo, and then all of a sudden I wake up and like the drill instructor's in my face. He's standing over me, and he's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" and I was like, "I don't know what's happening, sir." So they sat me up. I was just super dehydrated, you know, and I just got back into formation and ate.
Oh, good. So you didn't have like medical...
No.
Oh, good. That saved you, man, because they mark people. Did you hear about that?
They do.
They'll mark you. They'll make your T-shirt have lines on it. Then you're like marked as that. And they always threaten to like stick thermometers in weird places.
Yeah,
and
the silver bullet.
The silver bullet, man. So that
always a rectal thermometer. Never orally. I mean,
it's like 2015 or whatever it was, and 2006 or ish. Yeah. So that fear mongering was good though, because every night I remember drinking a whole canteen of water by myself. Just no one told me to. I just remember being like, "Look, this is the least I can do."
So getting back to what you were saying, you learn to find self-preservation.
Yeah.
And outside of the drill instructor's help. Because I mean, the drill instructors are there to guide you and everything.
Right.
You know, when they're pushing water on you and shit, I think they have the idea in the back of their mind that like, okay, they're going to try and just do this shit themselves and be autonomous to a certain degree, to hydrate, to stretch out, to blah, 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 you know, if you're doing a workout and stuff, to get limber and stuff. I think the fitness program was okay. It was okay. I think I got more out of infantry school. I think infantry school is a bit harder.
Okay.
Like physically.
Yeah.
And boot camp was more of like that mental challenge.
Yeah. Though I will say I lost like 30 pounds or something.
Wow.
Yeah, which was funny for swimming, because I remember I was great at swimming, but when I got in, because I was like fat, and then I could float everywhere. And then when you lose all that, like I got this swimming thing, it's no big deal. And then you go to try to swim, you're like, oh, nothing's keeping me up. You know,
buoyancy's different.
Practically drowning at swim qual and stuff like that.
What did you get up to? Like level 3
just the
or
second
whatever?
one, so I was like 3. Yeah. It wasn't until we got it out and I threw on some pounds that I could actually get to like Q or something.
Yeah, dude. I remember when we were doing a drill one day.
Yeah, that was it.
And they brought us to that school, and you were there like all night.
All night, man.
They did like was that level 1?
No, beyond that. After like, 1 is Q.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So you got Q qualified?
I did, yeah, because I was so big, man. I bulked up and I had some buoyancy, so it was easy. Asked me to do that in boot camp, I would have died.
Sure.
But then the funny part was we had to drive, right? I was a driver, so I had to drive the Humvee after a full day of swim qual. Like,
that must have been
games.
Yeah.
So
shot.
Boot camp was a thing. You graduated, and so off to infantry school.
Off to infantry school soon after. I thought that was a lot of fun. Obviously,
and gave us some freedom, right? You got a little freedom mixed.
A little bit. I had a libo taken away because I pissed off one of the instructors or whatever. But I think that was kind of par for the course.
The mental game.
Eventually, you're gonna piss somebody off.
Yeah.
I would say infantry school was a nice taste of like the fleet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird because when we as reservists talk about the fleet, it's always such a different experience, because back then reservists were getting mobilized, whether you're going out on a float or whether your unit was getting mobilized. Like, so the fleet life for reservists is much different than active duty. But one of the nice things that when we talk about reserves is we were able to, I don't know about if you realized this at the time, but we were able to guarantee our jobs.
Ooh.
So reservists, if you're going infantry and you specifically want to be a machine gunner, that could be put in your contract. I don't know if you realized that at the time, but I actually went from assaultman to mortars.
Why?
I think it was one
cool
of those
rockets versus
I know, dude.
fireworks?
I wish, and I don't think assaultman's even an MOS anymore.
It's not. I don't think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they got rid of that.
They got drones for that shit now.
Right, or combat engineers. They basically do the same fucking thing.
Right.
So I was a little disappointed. I didn't see the appeal of mortars. I knew what mortars were. I was like, handheld artillery. That's stupid. But it was super fucking cool. I love the mortar training. I thought it was super cool.
It was cool. Yeah, it was cool. It was different, right? Mm-hmm. You were still infantry, but you had this this thing. Of course, it was heavy though. You had to lug it around everywhere
with the 81s.
81s, yeah.
So did you hike with the 81s on your 20K?
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I think we were one of the last like phases.
They don't do that anymore?
They do not, dude. They stopped doing that like a year or two after we got out.
Or they're probably just losing too many tubes.
Probably
down
people
valleys.
Throwing bipods off their truck.
Sir, we lost another tubes. Damn it, those tubes cost $20,000.
Right. So for those of you who don't know, in infantry school, you did a 5-10. Was it 5-10, 15, 20?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So your initial 5K hike was just like a quick like conditioning hike.
Right.
And then you did your 10K, and then you did a 15K with the 60 millimeter mortar system, which is manageable. That's manageable.
Yeah.
But once they got the 20K with the 81s, is oh boy.
Yeah.
You're gonna start hurting.
And none of it's convenient, right? Barrel's not easy to carry. Doesn't fit in your pack. Base plate kind of fits on top of it, but not really because it hits you in the head. Mm-hmm. The bipod doesn't really fit anywhere, so none of it fits. It wasn't designed to be carried.
No,
but you carry it. Yeah, that 20K was pretty epic for me. I remember it because it was raining. I was broke off, like you just putting one foot in front of the other, going, you know. And I remember there was tents. I think we either put them up or they were there. And I remember me and this other guy, we just like got in the tent. That was it.
Yep.
I don't remember. Like somehow they're like, you can lay down now. It wasn't like, ooh, let me change out of these wet clothes and get in a sleeping bag. It was like me and tent lay down.
And then immediately sleeping or whatever.
Yeah. And then firewash.
Oh, right.
But you're right. That was it was interesting. But there were some of those guys that like you don't want to get stuck in SOI.
No.
And there was these guys that hadn't got picked up or they got injured. And I also got a chance to see like the not so good side of the training. I guess it's people that weren't really Marines yet, or they were Marines, but they were stuck in this
weird purgatory thing.
That SOI was purgatory. And you wanted to get picked up by a training group and just go, right? But there were people that were like hiding their wall lockers and play games and not want to. It's like, that's not the real Marine. Like getting chow and going to the internet center and then skating all day, that's boring. So as soon as we got picked up, it was cool. I mean, it was fun.
But I like the idea that they kind of split it up in that like your first few weeks you're getting like basic infantry training, and then you change over to your specialty. Like all machine gunners are going to now learn, you know, the Golf and the 50 cal and the Mark 19. All the mortar guys are going to spend a couple weeks on the 60s and then a couple weeks on the 81s. All the assault guys are going to learn how to use the SMA and how to plant charges and stuff. So I thought it was really solid training, man. Like when you're doing infantry training with the Marine Corps, you know that you're getting like some of the best, even at the most basic level. Yeah, you're getting some of the best infantry schooling in the world. Yeah, easily. So I mean, infantry school had some high-speed stuff, a little bit, some high-speed stuff. I think the assault foundational. It was super foundational. Yeah, you know, you wanted to go to like your more advanced courses if you wanted to get like, you know, infantry squad leaders course. I never did any of that stuff, but you know, they had like advanced mortar platoon courses and stuff. So infantry
training. So then away you go off to your unit.
Yeah, man. So I got out of infantry school in like November and then checked into 125. And as soon as we checked in, I remember very clearly some staff sergeant was like, we're getting deployed, right? And I was,
Is that when you heard? Is that when you heard?
No, I had heard in infantry school, actually.
Oh, you already heard in infantry.
I knew that 1st Battalion, 25th Marines was deploying to Iraq when we were infantry school. So get this, I was in line. I was doing some medical thing or something like that.
At the unit?
In SOI.
SOI, okay.
So in SOI, I was doing some medical thing. I was in line with a guy, and it was all reservists. So I knew it was like me and like 3 other people.
Yeah.
So I knew that the other person next to me was a reserve guy.
Yeah.
So this was a split reservist. I don't know if you remember what that is, but like you'd go to boot camp, then you'd go home, and then you'd train. You'd train with your unit.
And you hadn't gone to SOI yet. Yeah.
And so he had been to 125 already for like 3 or 4 months or whatever. And they kind of gave him like kind of like on the job training.
Right.
I remember and then guys, they sent him to SOI. I think this was like a certain contract.
That sounds worse, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, do that training
getting
up
home
front.
and
just do it up front. Get it out of the way.
Get it out of the way.
It's not real life. It's just we got to do.
Mm-hmm. So I was chatting with him, and I was like, "Hey man, like what unit are you with?" He was like, "Oh, 125 out of Devon's." I was like, "Oh, cool. That's where I'm going when we wrap up here." And he was like, "Oh, do you know that we're deploying?" And I was like, "Oh, like I'd heard rumors." And
he was like, found out.
And he was like, "Oh yeah, like he confirmed to me that we're deploying." So when I checked into the unit, and that first sergeant or whatever told us, I wasn't shocked at the time.
Yeah, like, staff sergeant.
I know we're going down.
No, at that point, like, oh my God, a staff sergeant? What is that? Like, yes, staff sergeant. I do know we're deploying.
So that was cool, man.
Okay.
It was nice to kind of get a heads up, a little bit of scuttlebutt.
Yeah.
That came true.
A little scuttlebutt, little Lance Corporal underground.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I heard an SOI as well. For me, I was actually putting in a SOI package, not SOI, OCS package.
Yep.
It was all set, and the cool thing is that if you're in the reserves, you compete with college students. So I was like, fuck yeah. All these college students, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, I'm a Marine, and I have a college student. Like, let's do this. I was like, I'm going to get in.
Mm-hmm.
But then I heard, oh, your unit's deploying. The recruiters were telling me that. I was like, okay, hold on to the package.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably one of the only cool things I've done in my life is like, hold on the package. I want to get some. I want to deploy with these guys when I get back.
Yeah.
Then we'll put it in.
As an enlisted guy. I think that's super admirable too, man, because as somebody who we as enlisted people don't, the people that we respect the most are what, in terms of officers, are Mustangs.
Oh, totally.
Anybody
100%.
who's had prior
100%.
Enlisted experience. So Mustangs, for those of you who are unaware, are prior enlisted people. And I think you have to like get sergeant or staff sergeant or something like that to be qualifiable to get into the officer position.
It's hard though as a because if you're active, you're competing with Sergeant Slaughter, like there's only so many slots. And so, those guys are legit.
Yeah. So I think that's admirable that you realized that you were going that, okay, I could see myself as an officer, as, Lieutenant Cheshire or whatever, but I want to spend time in a combat zone as PFC, Lance Corporal Cheshire, do some of the heavy lifting, and then kind of get – and that really draws a bond to – if you were to become an officer, like they'll look at you and be like, oh, this dude's already got a combat action ribbon. He's been deployed and blah, blah, blah,
got more ribbons.
Yeah, exactly. Than like just the NDSM.
Pizza box and stuff.
Just the NDSM and pizza box and a GWAT service.
GWAT, yeah.
So – good for you, man. I think that's admirable.
Yeah, of course, long story short, I then deployed him like, all right.
Fuck being an officer. Fuck OCS.
I'm not going to go career on this puppy, that's for sure.
Yeah, man. The reserves allows you to test drive, man.
Test drive, yeah. It's a good point.
Test drive the car, man.
You sound like a recruiter. You recruiting?
No.
Hey, kids.
Yeah, hey, future Marines out there.
What are you doing with the rest of your life?
Right.
Do you want to go to college? That's awesome. Okay, so you remember getting to the unit beginning and being like an unsalty boot? How was that experience for you? Getting to the fleet,
man. Like as soon as I joined, I didn't even do a single drill.
You just mobbed.
My single drill was the mobilization.
Me too.
Yeah. So I think that's a cool experience.
It was.
And I love the fact that we both kind of had that same pipeline of boot camp SOI and then immediate deployment. Because why? It
was much more fleet-like because the problem with the reserves is that the drill thing really can suck.
Yeah.
Like, hey, 1 week in a month. But when you're at boot camp, you're at SOI, or you're deployed and you're active, the suck is constant. So
Right.
you're desensitized to it all. You're good. But when you have a month to get soft,
Oof, you don't
and
want
then
that.
one weekend a month to get
Ugh.
you like, that's rough. So I liked it. Hey, I was squared away good, like 30 pounds less. I'm like, let's do this, man. Let's deploy.
And you still get that mindset.
Yes.
That training mindset and dude, I feel like the training up until the moment that we stepped into Kuwait, the training was fucking constant. It was constant, boot camp, SOI, and then 125, we did some really cool workups.
We did, but you know what's weird is that once you are deployed, you realize some of these workups,
right.
I always remember, let's train you how to deal with IEDs. Okay, if we're driving on the road in California, we spot a quote potential IED.
Mm-hmm.
So we get out and we all fan out. We get closer to it. We look at it with our ACOGs, like, let's go look at it.
Right.
Let's fan out. It's like, no, not gonna do any of that.
The maybe in Afghanistan, maybe, but even then,
maybe just call it in.
Right.
Get the bot out there to go look at it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, I think once you step foot into the AO that you're going to be working in, then you realize, like, our left seat, right seat are RIP with 2.6.
Oh, is that who we replaced?
Yeah, we replaced 2.6. Shout out to all of our 2.6 boys from Fallujah. Actually ran into a random dude
around here.
At the time, I don't think he's working there anymore, but he was working for the state as like the Veterans Career Center coordinator or like an employment coordinator, and he was with 2.6.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I was like,
just get him on here.
Dude,
track him down.
I will make a list of people that will
show
get on this
outside
show.
of his house and be like, remember me?
Scouts and Marines, get on here.
Hey, we need you. Get on.
Yeah.
Get in the van.
So, yeah.
Okay, so workup. Any workup memories?
Workup memories.
While you're thinking about it, I'll throw one out at you.
Okay.
You're out in the field, extended period of time in California, and then it's like, hey, we're going back. We're gonna have like a day or two back. I remember Sergeant Whitmer. Shout out,
Timmy. It's his birthday today.
Tim
Whitmer's birthday.
Should we sing happy birthday?
No.
You sing it yourself.
Yeah, sing it to yourself.
Have your kids sing it too.
Yeah, exactly.
But I remember him being like, "Hey, Chesh, get on the phone, call up Domino's. They had that 5-5-5-5-5 deal where you just get as many pizzas as you want for $5."
Yep.
And I just remember the whole vehicle was just like, all right, let's get that order in, and we'll swing by in the Humvee, like they get those pizzas in the back. Just getting back to civilization made me really appreciate the smallest little thing, and I can definitely polish off a pizza after that. All those MRAs, you're like, yeah, give me some real fake food. Give me the real stuff. How about you? What was it like for you, the MOB experience and all that?
Well, the workup I thought was a lot of fun. That Stu Seagal experience.
That was cool. Talk about that.
Yeah, so Stu Seagal.
Can we talk about that? Is that going on?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think we're breaking any rules. I don't even know if they do that program.
They named
anymore,
it Stu Seagal, so it can't be classified. It was classified to be called like AppSat, CAM, control, app, read, some bunch of TLAs, acronyms, like that's classified. I don't even know what it is.
So you were talking about that with Mark on your first episode about how like it had like the simulated village and how we were using blanks but the sim rounds and everything, which was like the chalk.
Were we in the same squad at that point?
I don't know. I know that they did a whole lot of like moving around So I do remember when we started the mobilization, right? It was broken down by our weapons sections, right? So all the 81s guys were training together. All the machine gun guys were training together. All the assault men and blah, blah, blah. They were all training together. I think like halfway through like the workup, like on month like 2 or whatever, then they split us into assault platoons.
Right.
And those were going to be the platoons that we were going to actually mobilize with. And that pissed a lot of people off.
Because they like their people.
Right, yeah. They were splitting friends up. They were splitting up people who had worked together previously and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I get the idea. But I know that pissed a lot of people off at the time. So when we split up into our, our map 1s or whatever, then we must have been in the same platoon.
We must have did we get into map 1 at that point? Because we were in the same platoon.
Yes.
Together. even when they took the whole company and made them all into maps, that must have been when we got first group together.
Yes. Like so you and I, it was nice because you and I were together in 81s, and then we were together, and we were both boots, and then we were together in Map 1.
In Map 1, yeah.
So that was cool. That was a nice thing for us to be able to share.
Do you what do you remember from any deployment? The MOB experiences? Anything? Stu Seagal. Did I talk about how we got? Were you with me when we got wrecked in that Mout town? Stu Seagal?
I think
the
every
blanks.
platoon got wrecked.
You walk
especially
in the door.
That shoot house thing.
The shoot house.
Oh my god, dude! Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this. I particularly remember like bodies stacked.
Yes.
At the doorway,
like in the entrance.
In the entranceway.
Yeah. It's all like you're dead. You're dead. You're dead.
Like our whole squad, just and some other squad, we're just all those guys at Stu Seagal. They're just like murking us all.
Yeah.
The first time.
Yep.
And then we like violence of action. You just go run in there like banshees and start shooting people if they're shooting you, and then we took them out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a good learning experience. For sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's an eye-opening experience when, and I mean, it's close to real life, because if you're going into an unknown area or an unknown house or something, they know the whole layout.
Yeah.
They're going to have all their guns trained on the entry point.
Yeah. Choke points.
They know that. They know all the choke points and all the fatal funnels and stuff. So of course, like, you rush in with 6 Marines, and the first 4 guys are dead.
If you're hanging out, if you hang out there, you're going to get murked. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I mean, I think that they were they knew that we were going to Fallujah. And I think that they realized Fallujah had at that time, I mean, God, a year, maybe 18 months prior was the big battle push for Fallujah, the second one.
Shout out to the guys that did that too.
Oh my God. Yeah. Phantom Fury guys.
Yeah. We kind of inherited like a secured, and the city wasn't secured, but we had fobs and bases and stuff, and we didn't have to, at least our group didn't have to fight house to house. So shout out to those guys for setting us up for success. But yeah, they were definitely training us for the shit. This wasn't like some Kuwait duty or something.
Right Yeah, man, definitely big props to the men who laid down their lives and who were wounded and in securing Fallujah, because we inherited a pretty secure area.
Yeah, sure. Well, at least back where we're at. But this was prior to us getting there was the bridge. With the contractors. What do they call that bridge?
Blackwater Bridge.
Blackwater Bridge, right? Yep. So all this stuff happening. So we get to roll into that. And honestly, it was kind of back to choosing to be infantry. If you're going to choose to be infantry, you'd want to choose to be somewhere that's hot. And I guess it was not as hot, and it certainly wasn't like Vietnam. So it's always that thing where you're like, there's always people that have been in more shit than you, and there's always people that have been in less shit than you. And usually the people in less shit talk a lot more, but but either way, it was definitely an exciting time. It's weird to say that too, right? It was exciting. Like there were the highs were higher, the lows were lower. There were some really shitty times. There were some really friggin' fantastic times.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. I think deployments are filled with that. They're filled with moments of sheer terror and sheer camaraderie, and like you're bonding super close with your boys and all that stuff. And I think
sweating it out
and going on ops together and stuff. I'd like to think that we had a pretty damn good deployment, because I know infantry guys who stood watch the entire 7 months.
Yeah.
That would have been terrible.
Guard duty.
Yeah. Never leaving the wire. And then you see your boys leaving the wire, and then they come back and they're like, dude, we got in a big firefight. And then you're like, oh, what the fuck?
I know.
You feel inadequate. And I think that's an unfortunate thing that's real, man. Like, especially older veterans and stuff, there's feelings of inadequacy that some of these people carry with them when they hear stories of, the guys who have been in firefights, who have been blown up and shot at and stuff. And then they kind of compare. Everybody does it. They compare what they've done to what the other person's done. And then the feeling of inadequacy, I can only imagine,
is
very powerful.
When you first mentioned inadequacy, I was like, well, I can't relate to that at all. I've got 2 kids, but no, I think, the humor side on that part, you make your own experience, you had your own tale, you had your own story. And what's kind of cool is you have shared experiences. You all came from different places. I mean, I remember our hut, right? We were blessed to have a hut. We had like a we had a house. So why don't you tell everyone like where we got the chance to stay?
Oh yeah. So most of our stay was at the beautiful Lake Bahria Resort.
Yes. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, Lake Bahria. Welcome.
So this was a legitimate, like, it used to be a resort outside of the city of Fallujah, and I think it was owned by like Uday and Hussein.
Yeah.
Uday and Kusei. I think it said Hussein.
Fuck them. I don't know. One of those douchebags.
A couple of those guys. And apparently like there's like stories that like they had like a torture house there, and like there was bodies at the bottom of the lake and stuff.
That's what they told us.
Yeah. So it was basically like this big resort area, and we kind of just, they had like these huts that like the workers would live in, and it was all along like this big lake,
right? And
so it was nice. Like, I mean, you cram in 6, sometimes 8 people into one hut. It's definitely cramped and everything,
there,
but it was, we had a roof over our head, we had air conditioning,
we had a fucking lake outside of our door.
Yeah.
So that lake was interesting because I remember them like some of the history of that was, I think it was Uday liked boat racing.
Okay.
Because that's what you do when you're a dictator's son and you have money.
Millionaire, yeah.
And he's like, I like the boat racing. How's that for an accent?
Pretty good.
That's an Uday impression. And they're like, well, Uday, this is Fallujah. We don't really have a lake. We have the Euphrates over here, and but no real lakes. She's like, well, let's make one. So they made a lake. So this lake that
huge
we were
fucking huge.
Yeah, this fucking huge lake we were around was a man-made lake, and specifically for boat racing, and also it was almost like a pleasure palace. So it was like a pleasure resort. They had a mansion in the middle of the lake, which by the time we got there was nothing. It was a foundation, probably on purpose.
Right. Blew that shit up.
Some tactical laser guided early on. It was like, nope, you don't get a pleasure palace. That's out. That would have been weird to stay there anyways. So that thing was smithereens. But yeah, they had that, but for infrastructure, there were these little houses, and you're right. I think they were for either the soldiers or the bodyguards, when they would come, they'd get to stay in these little cottages on the lake. And so, man, what a cool place to be stationed, because many of our brothers, 125, were, especially the line guys, like Alpha or whatnot, they'd be out at a checkpoint the whole friggin' time.
Yeah. Or the main base in the middle of the city, like literally in the middle of the city of Fallujah.
No, thank you.
Yeah, that was, I believe at the time it was called the CMOC.
CMOC, yeah, man. All that vocabulary is coming back.
Yeah,
the CMOC. So there were these bases that were not as secure at all. Like, it was super sketchy.
Yeah, they would take incoming on the regular.
On the regular, right. Whereas our thing, a couple times,
counter battery. We had a
couple times we had so much counter battery, so much things going on that and Pleasure Palace. Well, if you're a dictator, you build walls around your pleasure palace. So there was literally, he built us a base essentially.
Right.
Thanks, Uday.
Yeah. We took over your shit.
Say hi to Satan for us. We took over your pleasure palace. Thanks for the walls, because they really helped us secure.
They did.
Our. So there were walls with guard towers. So they literally, we sort of inherited this pleasure palace base. But yeah, they told us, don't go swimming in the lake. Do you remember this? Did you get a story about the guy that did?
I remember, and he drowned, right?
He drowned.
It was an interpreter, wasn't it?
Okay.
Wasn't it an Iraqi interpreter?
There's these stories. You never know if they're real or not. You never know if it's like FUD just to get you to not do something. Kind of like even from boot camp, like, oh, don't do this because like this is what happened, or if it's real. But so you heard about the interpreter drowning. I heard about some Marine went swimming, and hey, why not? But there's so many bodies and bacteria in this lake that he got an infection in his eye and it started eating his face. So they had to like overnight him to Germany.
Holy shit.
And so I heard that. I was like, cool, I'm good. I don't need swimming.
No swimming for us.
All set. Thanks. It worked, right? Fable or not. I was just like, good. Okay. I'll look at the lake. They were good pictures.
Right. Pictures. It was very scenic.
And yeah, we had some facilities there by the time we got there,
Yep.
So
we had our chow hall, we had our internet hall and everything. We had nice amenities.
It was not the Air Force bases by any stretch of imagination, but it was not bad, man. No. I mean, everyone has their own story, everyone has their own experience, but man, I was, you're looking back, you're like, wow, that was a pretty legit place to get stationed.
Yes. Yeah. So we basically would operate out of, that was our main base where we would just kind of operate out of. And travel from, because our designation as a MAP platoon, mobile assault platoon, we were running trucks. So we had to be within close proximity of the motor transport team.
And a road, right.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So, because we were on trucks, because we were like a security, we were kind of like the battalion's like security force.
I call us like the cavalry, we're like the knights mounted on our trucks.
Whereas the guys within the limits of the city were actually going out on foot, and they would roll some
foot missions.
They would roll some trucks and stuff like that. But like when we were out on patrol, it was all trucks. We would, dismount here and there depending on what the mission was. If we were doing a raid or a capture or something like that. But yeah, no, I was very lucky to spend the entire deployment in the same gun truck.
Yep.
With the same two guys, Sully and Witt. Shout out to Mike Sully.
Two guys. What about me?
Oh yeah, you were there too. You weren't. Unfortunately, you weren't as constant because you got pulled away.
They moved me around, man. I was. They put me in all different positions, different places. But yeah, different trucks too.
That's true.
You drove that truck the whole time with Sergeant Witt, right? And then for me, I drove another truck. I was guy in back. I was a gunner. I was this, I was that. But yeah.
So you got moved around quite a bit more than I did. I think I only sat in the truck and up in the turret like once or twice.
How was that?
I like driving a lot better.
Yeah, did you ever light one up in the top of the truck?
Oh God, no.
Did you ever have to flare anyone?
No, it didn't.
Do you remember
that? Yeah. We had escalation of force rules and everything.
Yeah, talk about that.
So at the time when we were there was a very strong civilian presence in the city of Fallujah.
Well, it's populated, right?
Right. It was. They opened it back up. They opened the city back up once they basically went through and destroyed half of it.
Right.
And we're letting people in, and I mean, it was busy, dude.
Yeah,
those
man.
ECPs would be backed up for miles, man. People trying to get into the city. And I'm sure most of those people were probably just trying to live their lives and make business happen and shit like that. But of course, some people were bad guys and were trying to get into the city and link up with their bad guy friends and shit. So, you'd have Marines constantly out there searching vehicles with the Iraqi army, with the Iraqi police, blah, blah, blah. So,
but there was checkpoints to get in the city. So everyone that came in got searched. All the vehicles got searched. Somehow there was always still weapons and bombs and stuff.
Yep.
I don't know how they smuggled it in, but they did.
So it was our job, if you were up in the turret and let's say a vehicle was coming at you, you didn't know if it was going to be a suicide bomber or whatever. So the escalation of force rules basically said you had to.
They were slightly silly, but
they were a little silly, but I think they probably were designed to save people's lives.
I agree.
Because Marines, when they get nervous, they just go right for their guns. So that's
shit.
Yeah, exactly. You load it up, you're condition one.
Yep.
That's just the way it is, man. Marines have to be aggressive. That's just it's in their nature. So
we're not exactly a great policing force either.
No.
That tip of the spear is for a reason.
Yes. So, I mean, I think we as reservists kind of had a very unique experience because a lot of our members were police officers.
That's a really good point.
So I think that versus, some active duty unit that just got back from Afghanistan who was literally kicking down doors for 7 months, we probably had a slight advantage over them just because we had guys who actually knew some level of policing / counterinsurgency / criminal, being aware of criminal aspects. Because at this time, Fallujah we were looking for criminals, man. Like we weren't. It was not like
you don't go walking around the market looking for hashish, right?
We were looking for bad guys.
Yeah, for bad guys.
We were not looking for contraband. We were looking for contraband that was IEDs and weapons and stuff.
Right. But you're in the top. And so first thing was flags, right? Was that flag? So you see a car and you're like, I don't know, that car looks sketchy. You don't want it to drive into you and totally vaporize everyone in the vehicle. Right. So it was like kind of a position where you had to really pay attention. Guy in back, just chill. Yeah. Driver had to drive. But then the gunner, though, I remember had a chance to do that a bunch of times. And the flags, your flag or hand, something bright, and you're like, hello, dummy.
Right.
And what people were supposed to do was pull off the side of the road, right? So if you
just like if you saw like a police car coming down the side of the road or something, like you pull over, you get out of the fucking way of the convoy.
Yeah. And remember we'd always drive in the middle of the road.
Yes.
So always down the striped or the solid yellow, if they had it, line, or if they didn't have it, you're still in the middle of the road, which is weird because you come back and you're like, I want to drive in the middle of the road. And you can't.
Don't do that.
But you wave the hands, and if they don't see your hands, your stupid flags,
then you escalate the force.
Yeah. Do you remember that was the next one?
Yep. Flares.
Flares. So I had a chance to shoot a flare at a car.
Okay. How'd that go?
My door wasn't, in the vehicle, and it's happening so fast. I freaked everyone else out because they didn't know I was escalating to a flare.
Yeah.
But it was quick. I was like, flag. This car was suspicious. It was like it kept driving. What they're supposed to do is you need to stop. Like, oh, here's a convoy, but they've got 50 cows. They've got they've got stuff in those vehicles that can erase your car.
Yeah.
So you need to just pull off the side of the road. But if they didn't, or they're not paying attention, thankfully there's no the phones weren't really like big texting and whatnot. Because I think like Americans, we're all texting. We would not see the convoys. No. We'd all get murked.
Yeah.
But I remember shooting a flare at a car, and it hit their hood and it bounced into the sky.
Oh my God.
And the guy was like, oh shit. Like,
he immediately stomped on the brakes.
Yeah, because they realized that's like a near-death experience for them, because they realized after that you're shooting them.
Right.
Right.
You're going from your flare to your rifle.
Flare to your rifle, yeah. And so Medor's like, what was that?
Right,
like,
because it sounds like a gunshot.
Yeah, it's loud.
The flares have this distinct pop if you've never, and it sounds like a single gunshot. So yeah, I can see why he was like, whoa,
what's going on? Like, car. He's like, tell me. I'm like, I can't tell you.
Yeah,
like,
right. It happens too fast.
So fast. Yeah. But they stopped, thankfully, because I really didn't want to have to, especially take out anyone that's like just being dumb, So they stopped. But yeah, okay. So driving around. Yeah, you were a driver the whole time, right?
I was a driver the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah. What was it like, man? Driving NVGs and driving the
Humvee. Dude, the first night we ever rolled out with NVGs, and it was like pitch black out. I almost ran over like a whole wire of, almost ran over a whole roll of concertina wire because I didn't know how to focus the fucking NVG. We had done like night driving and stuff before, but it was nothing like, being out in the field and, having all your gear on you, your battle rattle and everything like that.
I definitely ran over concertina wire.
Did you?
For sure. Yeah.
And some people got that shit wrapped up around their axles of their trucks. And literally, I remember we had to stop once because somebody got their axle wrapped up so bad. We had to stop and pull like a security thing.
I remember that.
Where people like,
I remember that a lot. I remember
somebody was underneath like the Humvee, like trying to cut like the was that your truck?
That was, that may or may not have been me. And Landry was, thankfully he was cool about it. He was like under the Humvee trying to like get the stuff out of there.
Right.
That might have been me. That might have been me. I don't, but even to this day, I'm like, what did I run over a concertina wire?
Right.
I don't know.
But yeah, man, driving around the city of Fallujah was absolutely an interesting experience. And I had just kind of gotten my driver's license.
Oh, you just learned how to drive?
I literally had my driver's license for like a year and a half, maybe tops at that point. So I was still kind of fresh at that. But I mean, I think I had a pretty good grasp at the whole driving thing. There were a couple instances where I saw something and nobody else did, so I made like a very quick maneuver, and then Witmer saw what I saw, and he was like, "Whoa, nice! Good that you saw that." And I'm like, I'm just trying to keep us alive, man.
Yeah, right.
Just trying to keep us from getting blown up.
One day at a time. And that reminds me of I don't go back to boot camp, but bring it here. One day at a time. It was the whole like chow to chow, Sunday to Sunday. Mm-hmm. Sometimes even now, when I talk to people or even family, and they're like going through the shit. I'm like, what do I do next? I'm like, you know what? Tonight, you're going to go to sleep. We're going to wake up tomorrow morning. We have breakfast, and let's just worry about that. Let's worry about the next couple hours. Mm-hmm. Go to bed, wake up, we're going to have breakfast, and then we'll figure out what to do after that,
mm-hmm.
And then after that, there's lunch. And so kind of like zeroing in. And I think those are the kind of lessons you can take with you, where you're
mm-hmm.
like, I don't know how to handle this huge problem right now. Okay, well, I can at least get that first step in,
mm-hmm.
I can first step in and I'll go get breakfast or lunch or whatever it is and figure it out. And then, slowly but surely get through it. But yeah, I think you were a really good driver. You were calm and stuff. And I was always like, And so making all my VCs nervous. Like driving like a sports car.
Right.
Humvees are not sports cars.
No.
Remember the old days of flipping the switch and it goes to start. You have that rattle.
Yep.
Which is funny why people buy Hummers now, and you're like, nope.
Not the same. Only the H1 is close, the closest thing to what we had. But yeah, man, I loved my Humvee. I thought it was a nice opportunity to just kind of, because I drive like a little modded car now and stuff. So it was a nice opportunity to kind of get into, turning wrenches a little bit and kind of PMing and maintaining the vehicle and stuff like that. Those some nice skills that I kind of took into my real world life. So.
Right on. Do you ever there's air conditioning, right? So people joke like, you guys air conditioning in those Humvees? Yeah, we did, because it was fucking hot outside.
Didn't really do much.
Didn't do too much, but
it was enough.
And you didn't necessarily notice if it was working, but when it wasn't working.
Oh yeah, then you notice.
Did you ever have that happen? Like it die on you?
A couple times. Yeah. It's like, dude, like 5 minutes after it dies, just sweat.
Yeah.
Just pouring off of you.
Yeah, and you're still driving.
Right.
And going back to when our hands were messed up or whatnot, you're gonna keep going. It's like, ooh, let's cancel the mission because it's hot. Let's just keep rolling. But I remember getting out of the seat though, seeing the imprint of my back and my butt and my legs and everything on the seat.
In like this big wet mark.
Yeah. So when they say salty, I'm like, oh, that's right.
Where it comes from.
Remember those? We had these cool flight suits though, right?
When we switched from the camis to the flight suits, that was like
100%.
Yes, that was such a game changer. Such a game changer.
Who was it, like Bam and some of the other guys just like, they're like, I'm not even wearing skivvies. I'm like, dude, I didn't even know that. But hey, whatever keeps you cool in Iraq, man. But yeah, it was neat because we had these flight suits, probably because they're Nomex and supposed to be fire resistant and whatnot. And, but it made it a little bit cooler and also easier to get dressed, right? Belt and pants and jacket and all these, just like zip. All right, let's go.
Yep, just that quick, and I mean, usually, I think typically we'd see a lot of the guys just kind of wearing like half the flight suit, and then they tie the arms around their waist, like back in the 90s when you tie a sweatshirt around your waist and stuff.
Yeah.
So usually it'd be fairly casual unless you were out on a mission or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like going from like wearing like a business suit to like pajamas. Dude.
Yeah, it was nice, man. I don't know why I'm still not wearing those now.
Yeah, I still have mine.
I do too. But you could always tell when you've been out for a while because they would get like crunchy, right? The salty part of it all. Like you got a chance to understand, oh, that's what salty means. Like, oh, that person got salty, or that's a salty Marine. You're like, what's that mean? Oh, that means their stuff is just caked with this stuff.
Yeah.
And imagine beach landings too might make you salty.
Sure.
But yeah, I just remember, the feel of it's almost like you're wearing some stiff starched, thing, and then you'd have a couple days in the back and you do laundry. Again, back to taking care of yourself.
Yep.
Because that freshly washed, and it's some ghetto washing machine beside one of the hooches or whatnot. But I just remember,
didn't they implement like a laundry service like halfway through the deployment or something?
Oh yeah,
you remember that?
I do actually. Remember who did our laundry?
Yeah, we would give somebody would come by and we'd have our laundry bags.
There was a place you drop it off at.
Okay, that's what it was.
There was like a mesh bag. It had your name on it.
Yep.
Put all your stuff in there, everything, and you give it to the Army, and the Army did our laundry. So shout out, United States Army. Thanks for keeping us clean and washed. Yeah, that was. I mean, we had some luxuries,
Definitely.
We definitely had some luxuries.
Absolutely.
I could see other people being like, "What?" and other people being like, "What?" I mean, you didn't have internet and PS4, like all this stuff.
We were kind of like in between, like shitty camping lifestyle.
It was like glamping.
Yeah, it was kind of glamping. Car camping and stuff.
If I wrote a book and it was like somewhat sarcastic, it'd be like glamping in Iraq.
Yep.
Like, oh, today let me go wash my dungarees in the Euphrates.
Yeah, right.
Did you ever go in the Euphrates?
No.
I never did. I remember a couple guys doing some of those missions out to, I don't know which
one of those ECPs.
ECP 2 or 3.
Right. The one across from the one over the other bridge, that big bridge. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, some guys took the Humvees down, and I think they may. But again, back to bacteria and all that weird stories. Probably wouldn't want to, but it might be kind of cool. Be like, I was in the Euphrates.
Right. How many Americans can say that they've ever swum in the Euphrates?
And you're not going back there. And you're not going to go as a tourist. So.
Yeah. Right.
So what stands out for you when you think back to those experiences? Start first with like, what would be some experiences that were like, I don't say negative, but the ones that are just the hard ones, that you would rather forget?
Well, I think any time that where anyone was hurt or killed, those are the challenging experiences. Those are the challenging times. The 4th of September will always be ingrained in my memory. That was when we lost Eric Valdepeñas. We lost Doc Walsh. We also lost Corporal Shoemaker. And that sucked because like we were the first platoon to arrive on that scene when those guys were killed. And that was just that was very difficult. Thankfully, Cody Hill survived that first blast. And so that was a tough day. And then that evening, actually that same day, we had one of our trucks blown up by an RPG, and then we went back to the FOB. And then when that night we came back, we were going to that ECP across the bridge, and then we got blown up again. And that's when Murray and Shane Burke got hurt.
Right.
So that was a very challenging day, man. And thankfully we didn't lose more men than we definitely could have lost more guys. Like these were tactics that up until this point we hadn't seen. Like they were utilizing like higher, grade explosives, or just the way that they were putting the explosives underneath the Humvees. It would make it so that the bombs would go off on the weak spot, under the underbelly of the truck. And that's how guys really started getting hurt. So those days are ones that you want to forget, but it's also, you got to hold those in your memory just to make you realize that it's not all glorious and glamorous and boring. There are moments of action and stuff like that. And it's a weird dichotomy because that's what you were there for, right? Getting back to what we said earlier, we wanted to be in the shit.
Right.
And when you're in the shit, those are the moments that you're like,
it's like what you asked for.
Right.
Like, oh, right.
Yeah.
It's that, I like the word like dichotomy. That's a good one. I couldn't spell that, but I could I definitely know what that means. It's just the contrast. Because with the training, I mean, people always ask me if I was scared. I think I was only scared 4 times, specific, like really scared, like whoa. But then there was there's the calm, boring times. There's the fun, but then there's the contrast with that. Just balancing the two of them or going between one to the other. And, we don't bring these things up because, it doesn't glorify it, but it like pays honor to like the warriors that were there, the ones that did sacrifice, as well as the ones that carry on for them.
Absolutely.
And I think going back to dichotomy. Hey, we'll call the episode dichotomy.
Sure.
It was all about with the training. Were you scared? For the most part, no. And I think a lot of that came back to training. Where it was just like, I'm invincible until you can prove otherwise.
Right.
Now, it doesn't mean I'm going to be an idiot. So if I'm standing out in the open, I'm moving around because I don't want to get sniped. But I felt confident from the training.
Yes. Yes.
And this, esprit de corps, if you throw that out there or whatnot. But it was all well done. And I think it was all orchestrated very well. Back to all the different trainings, the boot camps and all that. Everything that was part of that went and made me confident. I mean, it was overly confident. I don't know, but it was like that sort of the Marine thing. Maybe it's just all of us, just that hard charge, like
Right.
And so the dichotomy was you feel that, but then every now and then there'd be people around you that you would lose, And for me at the time, it was weird because I didn't know everyone that well, And I don't know if you had this because you got there when I did, but I didn't know. And some people, when we lost some people, I didn't know them that well. So some of their brothers were like really sad. And for me, it was more surreal. Like, and I don't think my feelings were turned off. Maybe that was, safety mechanism.
Kind of numbing out. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, I remember being at some memorials and being moved.
I remember crying like a bitch.
Did you? I mean,
memorials, dude.
Oh, for sure. Everyone has their thing, but I think for me, I was mostly moved by the emotions of the brothers that knew those people really well. And like they're tore up, and I'm just like, oh man, this thing's real. I was feeling their pain, though I didn't necessarily know the person, but I had this sort of cold, mission oriented thing. Right. It wouldn't be till later on when you get back and maybe you chill out for a second where you're like, now maybe I got to feel my feels. And maybe that was the challenge is for me. I had to later on be like, okay, it's okay to feel that,
Right. Good for you, man. I think it's a great transition into, post deployment life. We'll let these sirens pass by.
The sirens, are they coming for you? Do they know?
No,
do they know we're up here doing this thing?
Flashbang comes through the window.
People don't know. We actually broke into this place and we're upstairs and they don't even know. And okay. So one thing too, I wanted to bring up because you're here, was King, right? So, great guy, who unfortunately was killed in Iraq.
Yes.
I didn't know him that well. A lot of the other brothers really did.
Especially in mortars.
Especially in mortars.
He was a mortar guy.
He was a mortar guy.
And he didn't have to go on the deployment. He was one of those guys who went to Okinawa. So some of our 125 brothers had been deployed to Okinawa, and that was in support of OIF, but it obviously wasn't in Iraq, but it was, in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Right.
So those guys who deployed to Okinawa didn't have to go to Iraq, but King was one of them, along with several other of our brothers. So the fact that he was killed in a deployment that he didn't even have to be at, I think that really kind of chapped some people's asses, and rightfully so, man. Like, that's complicated. That's super fucking complicated.
Absolutely. Now I bring him up because I want to honor him, because I actually met him when I first joined the unit, and it was a drill, but we're mobilizing, and so everyone was out in the field, and I don't know what's going on, and Marines and organization and admin, it's not exactly an admin organization. Right. So I get to this unit, you're not hanging out with some sergeant major, so I'm just there, and everyone else is out. It's wintertime, and they're all out the fields doing something probably horrible, in Massachusetts. And so I remember King was there. He wasn't out in the field with them, probably because he's holding down the fort or whatnot. Oh yeah, you hear that? That's right. This podcast is on fire. We're on fire, people. This is real life. You get to hear good old Nashville Fire Department. Shout out.
Getting some.
They're still getting some, even to this day, Nashville Fire Department. But I remember him being there and him being like super cool. And when you're a boot and get to a unit, and I know this is nothing like the active pickup by your wine companies just going to haze the shit out of you.
Yeah.
But I remember everyone's like, you're this boot, and like whatever, just make fun of you. You don't even know if they're making fun of you because you don't know what's going on.
Right.
But I remember King just being super cool, welcoming me, getting me squared away. I probably had like Charlie's on incorrectly, didn't even need to be in Charlie's. I don't even know what's going on. I'm like clearly that guy, that just needed a little help, and he was there, and he was like, I remember him being really cool. We hung out for a couple hours because we were waiting for everyone to come back.
Yep.
And it's just like a cool experience. So like, and then he wasn't even in our map, right? So it wasn't like I had a chance to spend much time with him. I know a lot of the other guys obviously did, but that was like, I just knew he was like, that one touched me more because I had spent time with him,
Yeah, I have a great story about Nick. It's very very quick. But we were doing one of the first mobilization exercises at Devon's, and I think I like stayed at like a hotel or something, and I didn't have a fucking ride to like the drill center, and it was like snowing like a motherfucker.
Yeah, it was December, right?
Yeah. Yep. So here it is, December. Here I am with my sea bag and shit, like trying to like, and I was like, I got to get to the drill center. I got to check in or whatever. So I was like, I started like hoofing from my hotel. And I mean, it was only like a mile and a half or whatever, but I was probably going to be late.
In the snow.
Yeah. In
uphill
the snow.
Both ways.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember Nick and his wife at the time, I believe, or girlfriend or something, they saw me and they like pulled over in their like Jeep, And they're like, hey, do you want to ride? And I was like, yeah, sure.
That's awesome.
So they picked me up and, gave me a quick ride, and we just shot the shit and everything. And like you said, very warm and welcoming guy, just a really, really cool guy. And I had a similar experience with Eric Valdepena, who I didn't know super well, but, we connected because he was a Rhode Islander. And I was like, didn't know a lot of guys from Rhode Island at the time. So, when I realized that somebody was from Rhode Island, just shoot the shit. You talk about the towns that you go to. You talk about Providence and stuff. You have that connection of something. So those are my. I didn't know those guys super well, but those were difficult events when we lost those guys. It sucks to lose anyone in your unit, man.
Right.
But I think thankfully, having a little bit of a distance, if I had lost somebody like that I was super close with, like you or John or something like that, man, that would have been really devastating to me. But it sucks, man. But I mean, it's kind of like a spectrum. It's a spectrum. And I think everybody realized too that, like, you know what, man, we got to just keep moving on. We just got to keep this deployment isn't stopping because men have been killed.
Right.
And it's just kind of par for the course. We just got to keep on keeping on, and we're going to let our emotions be what they are after the fact.
Yeah. Yeah. And, feel them later. Yeah.
Right. And you just got to move on from that stuff, especially when you're in a combat zone, where if you're getting caught up with thinking about, the people that you lost, if you're getting caught up with thinking about back home or what your girlfriend or your wife or your mom or your whatever is doing, you're going to be not in the right mindset in case shit happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was part of why it was just like, you don't really process it. And I think sometimes the challenge is like, you got to process it at some point, but yeah, I just wanted to bring him up because, a good guy, kind of like, honor that name. And to your point,
Absolutely.
I know a lot of the guys that really knew him well, whether it was tattoos or just, remembering him, and even some of the guys would get together I think it's once a year, in the park, had a chance to join some other guys from our unit, and we got together. And I think this is probably the last, thing I'd share on King, at least for now, was, the whole unit getting together at some park somewhere. I don't even know where it was.
It's in Tingsboro. His
memorial
bench.
Yeah. That's exactly where it was.
Talk about that. So he's got a nice in Tingsboro. I believe it's in like a little landing area. It's like a housing complex or something like that. I believe that's where he or his family like grew up. Our apologies for not knowing exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, every year on the anniversary of his death, or around the anniversary of his death, a bunch of 125 Marines get together and honor King. We just hang out. We have a little barbecue, throw some beers back, throw some cigars on, and just talk about, just talk about stuff. And it's always great seeing those guys. And I'm glad that you had the opportunity to go up there. I know some guys who go up there like every year. I can't always make it, but it's a great way.
I had such a great time doing that, and I was kind of nervous too, because I was like, I don't know, you haven't been around some of these guys, and you know what, it was just like we never left off, kind of like this conversation here. You never left off, and you're grilling burgers and you're having a good time, drinking some beers with people you care about, and that what's cool about the whole thing is it honors him, and it's because of him we had this experience, and so it's like, thank you, for not only your sacrifice but for your memory is able to bring us together. And you never know, maybe one of those guys at that campground was like going to kill himself, or not feeling good, but getting around your brothers is like, okay, kind of getting a chance to maybe share the feelings then, or make fun of Lily, like either way.
That comes with the territory, man, making fun of each other.
Absolutely. You only make fun of people you like.
You respect. Absolutely.
Right? If I don't like you, I'm not going to make fun of you, which gets tough in the civilian world.
They don't always understand that.
No. That's a great segue, though. Let's talk about that transition.
Yes.
What was it like? At what point did you get out? And what did you do when you got out?
Well, shortly after we came home, that was basically like, it felt like such like a sprint. I don't know how it felt for you, but like, you know, doing the boot camp thing, immediately into SOI, smoking yourself out over
Smoking
here.
myself out over here. I'm coughing.
You know, and then going immediately into the deployment, it really allowed, it was just such like a high intensity experience. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're home.
Yeah.
And it's not like, oh, you're back home in Pendleton where you're going to spend another year and a half and then you're going to do another deployment. It was like, oh, no, you're back, literally back home.
Back home.
Yeah. You know, as reservists, I think we had a very unique experience in that way.
It was definitely different. Yeah.
But I had a really hard time adjusting, man. So I went to the VA, had, you know, spoke with some people. And you spoke about seeing the wizard towards the end of our deployment.
Yes.
And I was pretty open about.
Were you? And this is in Iraq too. We saw the wizard.
Yes.
Did you see the wizard in Iraq?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So I think this was the point where like we had like a few weeks left to go home, and we all sat down like and individually saw a psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever. And I was pretty open. I was like, yeah, you know, I saw some stuff that bothered me and things like that. And they're like, oh, okay, you know, blah, blah, blah. When I got home, I had a very hard time processing and dealing with the things that we had experienced, and found myself drinking a lot.
Yep.
Found myself just gaining a ton of weight. I was totally out of shape, and all the drills that we had kind of done post deployment, I was just a slob, dude. I was a slob, dude. I was such a mess, man. I was drinking real hard. I had fallen out of a good fitness routine. And once I realized like where I was mentally, I kind of had to shift gears. So I ended up getting out early.
Okay.
I was medically separated in 2009, which was 2 years earlier than my contract.
Sure.
Because we, as reservists, we do a 6-year contract. So I got out a couple of years early, and just that was such a huge relief for me to not be triggered by going up to Devon's, to not be triggered by, dude, I was having panic attacks like on fucking hikes and shit. Like it was.
Oh, really? Like
you're
doing some random bullshit hike at Devon's?
Dude, like just having like fucking panic attacks and not understanding like what is going on with me right now.
You don't even know what it is. You're just feeling like panic.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so then I knew I had to do something to change the course of my life. And it took several years trying to, you know, find a good, you know, a good VA doctor, trying to find a good therapist and stuff. And it took a lot of in and out of the system. And then, you know, somewhere in like my mid-20s, I kind of started to realize that I had to shift gears. I had to get myself better. Had to get myself back into that mindset of, hey, you know what? I need to make a new mission and I need to start attacking it. I need to line things up in my life and approach them as they are a mission, you know?
That's really cool. That's really cool. You know, you mentioned the wizard. I actually lied to the wizard.
You did? Okay.
Yeah. So we're in Iraq still. I'm still like, it was the worst time to talk to me. And I know a lot of guys were like, tell them all sorts of fucked up stories and give you money. Mm-hmm. But I thought, okay, maybe I'm going to go to OCS. And I was still in like, you know, warrior mode or something. And he's like, do you have anything to talk about? Do you see anything? I'm like, nope, nothing to say.
Wow.
Nothing to say, you wizard. Like, I don't want anything in my record. Okay. I was worried about like my record. You know, can I go to OCS if I talk about this stuff?
That's
probably
true.
not.
That's a legitimate
but
concern.
It's a
especially
concern.
if you had a career in mind.
Right. And I'd heard all about that. Like you can lose your security clearance if you have PTSD. So for better or worse, I was like, nope, not going to talk to you. And it was a long time before I started talking to people. It helped being like, okay, well, I don't want to go to OCS anymore. So maybe your record isn't that important. But still, it was interesting. So I really applaud that you talked to him. And I think that we all have different experiences. Like, I know there's guys out there that didn't say shit, and you know, and then the problem for them is like opening up. But I'm glad you really able to start opening up as soon as possible. So you talk to the right person, they'll maybe clue you into what exactly is happening to you. You know?
Yeah, man. I think I just had a lot of unsorted shit too from like my teenage years. You know, and that was stuff that.
That's why we're in the Marine Corps. We're like the crazy ones. Uncle Sam's misguided children.
That's it. So there was just a lot of shit that just kind of accumulated. And then, you know, being in a combat zone, seeing traumatic shit, seeing people get blown up, being in firefights and stuff, was just super exhausting. Mentally, I felt very broken up. Spiritually, I felt very broken up. You know, it's like I had a lot of bitterness. I was had a lot of frustration, anger, still deal with some of that with very underlying frustration and anger issues. And I think as men, you know, as people that are filled with testosterone, like we have to have some kind of physical outlet.
Yeah.
You got to have some kind of physical outlet, like whether it's CrossFit, yoga, fucking running, just lifting weights, whatever you got to do, you got to have some kind of a balance of that physical output, as well as mental stimulation and even spiritual stimulation. And that shit can be whatever, you know, your mental stimulation can be pursue that higher education, get that certificate.
A challenge. You need a challenge.
You know, and, you know, with spiritual shit, you know, if you're religious, you know, get involved with your church group, start meditating. Meditation has been huge for me. You know, I grew up very, with a religious background, kind of fell out of it. I'm a bit more secular now, but I definitely feel myself as somebody who is connected with God, who is connected with a higher power through meditation, through my own just kind of personal spiritual journey, finding God in my own way, because I think morality is a personal thing. I don't think morality should be stamped on other people. I think morality is for the individual. And when people have good moral compasses, they're usually not out there to try and make sure that other people are staying with that moral compass. They're just kind of helping to guide. The things that we can control are so few and far between. With our own morality, if we can control that, then shit, man, like we got 90% of it is covered.
For me, it's like when you say that, I feel like the spirituality, like, you know, chart your course there, you know, like instead of imposing a religion or something on someone, you know, to your point, you whatever path you did to find God or to talk through the spiritual aspects. But that's important. I mean, it's interesting is, you know, if you would have had this conversation when we're in, or when we're still the boy, we're like, nah, hey, pass, you know, Torres is like, pass me the chicken MRE or something, you know, we're just got that armor up and, you know, the bravado or whatnot, but it's cool that we can talk about it afterward. You know, the spiritual side, I'm glad you brought that up. That's important.
Absolutely.
But the physical side, like the endorphins you get from working out, like throw out some big words there.
Endorphins.
Like, I can't spell that one either, but I can say it. That's good enough for me.
You know what it means. So
I know what it means, right? Even if you didn't know what it means, I get endorphins. But yeah, I think we take for granted all the physical activity we were either doing or mandated to do, or just kind of felt like it was a thing to do in the culture. You know, whether you're on a deployment or this, or coming back, the runs or the PT and all this stuff. And when I think about it now, it's like, oh, that was almost like our physical counseling, you know, get those endorphins. You're depressed, get the endorphins, you know, don't eat pizza.
Right.
Yeah. I remember that I have a war on pizza. I love pizza, especially Pizza Hut pizza. Why? Because it's probably the worst for you. And I remember feeling okay. And I went to a birthday party with a bunch of little kids and take one of my kids there, and they had this Pizza Hut pizza. And I was like, you have one, turns into like 9. And
one slice turns into 9 pizzas.
It's just so good. Like whatever fake chemicals are in there, they're just so good. And then afterward, not only did I feel like shit, but I felt sad. I remember feeling sad just in general. I'm like, man, I feel kind of depressed right now. Like, what's going on? So it just kind of reminds you that not only are the things you're eating could be affecting that, but also at the time I was doing some lighter workouts, and you know, you got to find your own thing. For me, I was trying some yoga. There's a cool program called DDP Yoga.
Yes. Oh, I'm familiar. Oh, dude, I want to try it. I want to try it. I haven't tried it, but I want to.
Okay. Yeah. I'll show it to you.
It's on my list.
I don't have my phone on me, but it's on the app. And by the way, they have a military discount for DDP Yoga.
Oh, cool.
If you email them, it's something like $4 or something. It's like basically free.
Wait, they don't take $4 off. The whole thing is $4.
It's like $4 a month. It's something.
Oh, nice.
It's like an unwritten. It's not even. There's no clicking a button thing. You just email them, and And I was like, I emailed them. They're like, okay. I'm like, do I need to like attach my DD-214 or something?
Right.
They're like, no, I put like a couple lines in there, like, Marine or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, okay, cool. They just like
cool.
take it face value.
So what is the DDP program for those who are not aware?
So go back to the old school WWF wrestling days, right? Diamond Dallas Page. And I came up old school wrestling, but it was like The Rock was like the guy, the Undertaker, The Rock.
Yep.
And so DDP was a little bit before my time, but basically a wrestler who had gotten really strung out in life. And, it's interesting. Wrestling has an interesting parallel to the military because they're in the ring and call it fake or entertainment, or they're getting their ass kicked, right? So they're constantly on pain meds. And whether they're good ones or bad ones, but there's stories where they're just in the back room and they're like, what do you want? And they'll just give them as many of whatever they want. So they're getting addicted to things. Yep. So Diamond Dallas Page got addicted to things afterward. And also, if you think about the mission, right? They have this show. They're in front of thousands of people. And then after that, they're done that. Their body hurts and they don't have anything fulfilling, right? And so DDP was like, man, he was cruising for just, probably just ending it all. And so he kind of found yoga and started working it. And so, my experience with yoga prior to this was like going to the Y and trying some yoga there. And there's like one guy, but he's super limber. And then there's like 90 women there. I'm like the guy with no flexibility. So I'm like trying to do yoga in the back and I can't quite, you're falling over and everything. But I'm like, I feel like this is giving me something. But with the DDP yoga, it's almost like tough guy yoga or like badass yoga, where instead of calling it like the warrior pose, it's like the road warrior pose. So they give like cool names and stuff. But what was cool is DDP got himself all cleared up and healthy and fixed up. And he started helping people around him. And he found his next mission. Because you bring up your next mission, you got to find the next mission. For him, it was helping his brothers around him, fellow wrestlers who had guided him when he first got in there, who were now also strung out, addicted to pain meds, whatnot. And so,
and not the specimens that they used to be.
Not that at all.
Athletes.
Yeah. And so there's a cool documentary about Jake the Snake. Do you remember that guy?
Yes. Yeah.
Jake the Snake was a real friggin' snake, and he talks about how it bite people, and Jake the Snake was in bad shape. And there's a documentary, definitely want to check it out. Have you seen it?
I haven't.
It's called Resurrection of Jake the Snake.
Okay, no.
It's on iTunes. It's 100% worth it. Just a couple bucks too.
Yeah, I love that stuff.
It's Jake the Snake. He's strung out. He's an alcoholic at this point. He's addicted to pain meds. They don't even help. He can't move. He's like stuck in a chair. And he's in
so banged up.
Backwoods, backwoods home in Georgia somewhere. And GDP hears about it, emails him. He's like, hey man, like Jake the Snake actually helped Page when he first got into wrestling. He was almost like the king, where it was like, hey man, welcome. Here are the ropes.
The mentor.
This is how you do these things.
Yeah.
And this is how this all works. And so he remembered that. He's like, look, you helped me. Let me help you. And this documentary goes through this process. Jake was like, okay, I'll try it. Why not?
Yeah.
And he starts doing this yoga. And what's cool about this program is DDP created it so that you can start with zero. And us sitting up in these chairs, not even zero. They have levels. The level starts at you're in bed. You can't get out of bed.
Yep.
Let's work out.
This is made for people who are, and I love the video. There is a former, I don't know his name. I'm sorry.
I think he's airborne, right?
Yes. He was a former airborne guy whose back and legs were just jacked up. He was enormous.
Yep.
And throughout the course of, dude, when I watched that, that video that they put together, that DDP, the yoga program put together of his transformation, dude, I was moved to tears, man.
Yeah, this guy basically can't move, and eventually, at the end, spoiler, he's doing a headstand with no hands, like
on his head,
and he's running. He couldn't walk without crutches, and then he's like doing a headstand. He's like, so it's this kind of thing, but for Jake the Snake in this documentary. And the guy had some relapses, man. He wanted to drink some more alcohol, wanted to do all this stuff, but this program gets him through it. So you start out, you don't have to do that phase, but if you need to, in bed, get a workout in. And there's chair force. It gets you to if you can only sit in chair.
Okay.
So how do you work out if you can only sit in a chair? And then it's like, okay, how do you stand up? Oh, with a chair supported.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually it's like the basic level, green. And that's where I started at or whatnot.
Okay.
Because I could at least stand up.
Right.
But what really inspired me was that there were levels below that, like that this guy did. And so really cool program. It's on an app, and it gives you a little kick in the pants because it's like every day or every other day there's a program.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's only like 15 minutes, but it'd be enough to break out in a sweat. You wear a heart monitor, so that way you can't kind of like cheat yourself. And the goal is to get into a certain zone,
a range,
certain zone. Yep. And if you're not in that zone, you're cheese dicking it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're like you're totally cheating yourself. And so, but it's okay. You like just do it, and then you start and you stay with it. And everything you do gets you little points.
Nice.
And eventually you get like a free T-shirt or something. But anyways, I did it for
reward system.
A bunch of months. I noticed my flexibility was crazy. You do these before after photos. It's good shit, man. So that DDP is it. The other thing I found, different people, different things, right? So yoga got me some flexibility, but and then it gets hard fast. So not just the green level. There's some things in there like this 15 or 10-minute ab workout that just breaks you.
Yeah.
And that breaking you reminds me of the Marine Corps. Reminds me of things like CrossFit.
Yep.
Where it's just like you need to get broke off a little bit like that because then you're flooded with all these happy endorphins of like you just did something.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And not only the chemical intoxication of the endorphins and all that stuff, but also the fact that like when you're done with that, you're like, whew, I can do this still.
Yeah.
I can still be that mofo that I was when I was, you know, in the Marine Corps, hauling ammo and weapons. And
hauling
stuff.
the 81, the 50-pound bullshit. You know, the ammo and all that shit.
Right.
But it's also helpful for the back problems too. I know just like carrying body armor, you know, sitting in that all day, sometimes the lower back issues.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those went away for me. So it was one of those things where you just got to try something out, do something. But it was cool. The DDP, you know, you could even see his next mission is just helping people, you know?
Right.
You know, so that was really good. So, okay. So you're going back to your story, right? So you have these troubling times. Did you find that next mission? Did you eventually, you know, get a job, or how did you go from being like, man, I don't need to do anything. You probably get some money from the government and you're like, you know, what do you want to do? Did you get back into I know you're in TV now and all these things. How did all that connect?
Yeah. So I knew that my first mission would be to go back to school or to start school. So I got my associate's degree pretty quickly.
Okay.
In 2009, I got my associate's in video and audio production, and then struggled a bit more, and then went back to school more and got my bachelor's degree in digital media, digital recording arts is the degree. So
that's cool.
I have a couple degrees that are geared towards what I wanted to do.
Right.
So I found that mission, and then from there.
Well, hold on a second. So you use a GI Bill for that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's cool. So it's almost like if you don't know what that next mission is, like, you know, I don't want to like, you know, save puppies or something or rescue people in El Salvador.
Mm-hmm.
It can be as simple as just go to school, you know, use that free Govy money.
Absolutely.
And even if you're not sure, sometimes those survey courses, you know, a little course here, a little course in, I did one like music history.
Oh, nice.
But like just exposes you to stuff, you know, and then maybe you don't know what your passion is in life, you know, after you've gotten out. But I like the idea of going back to school. Someone else is paying for it. Might as well take advantage of it. You paid for it by joining. Mm-hmm. So take advantage of that. What made you pick television and media?
It was something that I always wanted to do. I didn't ever want to be. I wanted to be involved with technical stuff.
Yeah.
I always had kind of a hand in computers and stuff like that. I've always been very tech savvy, so I wanted to blend that with my my skills and my vision as an artist as well. So it was a real nice way for me to balance those two things: the technical aspect plus like creativity and stuff. And I did. I've done gigs as a camera operator for hockey venues, baseball venues. I love hockey games and stuff like that. So
Bruins.
Yeah. Good luck on the Saturday's game against CBJ. That's going to be happening, I think,
Who's CBJ? Jets?
Columbus Blue Jackets.
Blue Jackets.
Yep.
These expansion teams blow my mind, man. I'm old. I can't keep up.
There's a lot of them. There was going to be another one actually on the West Coast. They're doing one in Seattle.
Jeez.
Yeah. So
That's cool.
I love hockey. I've kind of done my gigs as a videographer. I did some freelancing stuff, just kind of like traveling around the country, helping out with freelance dance photography. It was paying the bills at the time. I was kind of struggling and stuff, but it helped to, keep food on my plate, keep the bills paid and everything. And then I had a year-long contract at Hasbro Toys.
Really?
Yeah.
Doing what? Making toys? You like Willy Wonka?
No. I was helping out in their video production industry. Yeah,
okay.
So I got my hands on a couple of toy commercials. I also helped out with some of like their sizzle reels and stuff for like their New York Toy Fair. So like some of the videos that I worked on would be shown at toy fairs and events and stuff like that.
Wow.
So that was really cool, and it kind of that showed me that I didn't really want to be in like the corporate world,
right?
Because it felt very as cool as Hasbro is, and like I love like toys and Transformers and stuff like that. But as cool as that was very much like a corporate grind,
right?
But now I've been with Public Access, the Public Access station in Taunton, Mass,
right,
for about 4 years now.
Okay,
and I love it. I think it's fantastic. I'm the host of a veterans-oriented television show. As a member of the Disabled American Veterans, I got very involved with them.
Okay.
And the chapter in Taunton has had a television program for like years now.
Wow.
It's almost like a decade, I'm pretty sure. We're up to about 122 episodes now.
Jeez.
And I've had my hands in that for the last, since I've been with TCAM. So I just kind of got into this position where I was volunteering quite a bit for the Disabled American Veterans Chapter 57.
Well, what is that about? Like I've heard about that, but I don't really know much about it.
Sure. So the DAV, along with the other big six organizations, VFW, American Legion, AMVETS, et cetera, they are all, they have a lot of legislative power.
Okay.
So they have the ability to influence legislators. Our chapter is very well connected with our local state representative.
Okay.
Our local state representative, Shaunna O'Connell, is actually helping push Shaunna O'Connell. You're out there. Shout out to you. She's fantastic. She works very well and very closely with our veterans organizations in Taunton. So it's just there's pull.
Yeah, that's cool.
So the DAV in Taunton we're close to like 650 members.
Jeez.
The active member group is very small. We're probably less than 40 members are very active, but it's allowed me to give back in that aspect. I work with other veterans, and many of them are Vietnam era veterans, and I'm sure, like you, I look up to Vietnam era veterans with the utmost respect, because those people came back and were treated like garbage.
Yeah.
Even by their own veteran brothers, dude.
Yeah,
like World War II people were spitting on those people just as much when you think of Vietnam vets getting spat on, they were getting treated like shit by their fellow veterans too, because that war was not looked at in very high regard.
Right.
So Vietnam vets really changed the landscape for us, our generation coming home.
Right.
So I feel very fulfilled working with these guys, and it's been a great opportunity for me to kind of give back to the community that I work in. Taunton has kind of become a second home for me. I love the city. It's fantastic. The people there, I think, really care about their veterans. There's a lot of great monuments around the city that we're involved with Memorial Days coming up. We're going to be doing a nice parade.
Oh, cool.
So I'm going to be covering that at my job and stuff. So working in public access and also working very closely with veterans organizations is super fulfilling to me, man. So I'm able to take my job in television and use it in a philanthropic aspect.
Right. No, that's cool. you have a passion for the video and the production and the show, and kind of like what we're doing. And before we even got here, you were giving me we were talking about tips on how to do this and adjust the camera and the lighting. So this lighting is brought to you by Mr. Fortier right here. The sunlight and Ben Fortier right here.
Yeah.
So that's cool that, a passion for that kind of thing and an expertise, really. You could tell, obviously, good at it.
I take it seriously.
Yeah, you take it seriously.
I want content to look good. I want it to sound good. So, when you and Mark were talking, you guys were talking about, one of the things that the Marine Corps teaches us is if you're going to do something, go all in.
Right.
Don't just half-ass it, because you're not only cheating yourself, but you're cheating the people around you too.
Right.
So I've taken that mindset, and I try to bring it into everything that I do. But obviously, video and audio is my thing. So
yeah, but then uniting that with helping other people, and you said like you were really fulfilled, and I could tell like your voice was even like you get something out of it. And it's so true. I think, back to like, you're on some run and it's bullshit and you're about broke off and you're going to die. And then you look over to someone else. You're like, hey man, we're almost there, and kind of encouraging someone else just momentarily helps you forget about your own thing.
Yep.
But it just feels good. So that's cool. You're able to bridge the TV with like a cause,
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. So I wanted to get away from that corporate type of grind. And
sounds like public TV is like a little bit of you get the company, but at the same time it's not as that corporate cubicle kind of thing.
Yeah, because we're a not-for-profit, we have guidelines. We can't really help out commercial adventures and stuff. If somebody was to come to our station and say, oh, hey, I have this product that I want to advertise, we can't help them.
Right.
We can't help them. You got to be a not-for-profit or, something like that. And the DAV is a not-for-profit. So
right.
We're there just to help facilitate veterans, but also to bridge kind of the gap between the military and civilian side. So I'll have experts come in. I'll have people who are way smarter than me come onto the show and talk about what's going on. I had a very, very smart suicidologist come onto the program a couple months ago.
Okay.
We had a fantastic conversation, and I think, we talked about stuff that I think some people just are kind of afraid to touch upon, like veterans and using their firearms to kill themselves and stuff. And I think that's something that not a lot of people probably want to acknowledge
or address.
But that's a fucking issue. That's a fucking problem that
we love guns, and then at the same time, those guns can be there at the moment of weakness. So it's not a good thing.
Absolutely.
Is this show something you can see on the web, or is it kind of like you got to be in mass to see it? Or
Yep. So we do put our programs on a Vimeo video hosting website called Vimeo.
And
it's called the 57 Show is the name of the program.
The 57 Show.
Yep, and that's named after the chapter. The DAV chapter is chapter 57.
That's cool, man. We'll definitely put a link in the show notes for this show to that for sure.
Awesome.
I've seen one episode of that. I want to see more. Now you mentioned the some of the psychologists and whatnot on there. But the one I saw was awesome. I mean, you just had there's you and I think 3 other people. You're just having conversations like this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that might have been the 125 Association.
I think so. I think that was the one.
So that's another organization that I've kind of been shifting gears a little bit from the DAV. I've been the commander there for about 2 years now.
Oh shit! I didn't even know. Did I salute you?
You might want to.
Might want to.
No, that's
my gig line.
Yeah, right. So that's been a cool opportunity and experience for me just to kind of learn how to, and I'm a pretty good moderator. I feel like I've always kind of, as a middle child,
100%. Yeah.
I think
you're great at that.
I'm very objective. I think I've always been kind of a good ref. So being a commander position, I've relearned how to delegate.
Okay.
I've had to, learn how to just get better at being in front of people who are all riled up and fired up. But we as an organization, we have a mission. We got to focus on that. So all these people in the back that are talking about whatever they're talking about might not be relevant at all. So it's like, hey guys, we got to shift gears or whatever. So it's been a real cool learning experience for me. And I love the camaraderie, man. The camaraderie is fantastic. I meet people that I've never even served with, and you immediately feel like they're your brother, they're your sister, just because of your shared
bond,
experiences.
Absolutely. So you brought some stuff. They're over here on the side. What did you bring?
So this is a poetry anthology collection that I picked up. Actually, just ordered the other day. Came in very quickly. Poet warriors herein include Leo Jenkins, David Rose, Justin Eggen, Nick Misiano, Jonathan Baxter, Marty Scoveland Jr., Tyler James Corral, Keith Dow, Vincent Vargas, and many, many more.
What's it called? What's the book called?
This is called In Love and War, the Anthology of Poet Warriors. A lot of these guys are actually, they're self-published authors and stuff, and it's just a collection of poems. And take a look.
Yeah.
So that's by Dead Reckoning Company. They're the publishing company, and this is actually Justin Eggen is a combat engineer who spent some time in Afghanistan clearing routes on foot.
Well, no, I'm sorry. I'm already in the poetry book. One line: "Give me battle and wild war for the sake of the barbaric fight."
Oof, I love that, dude. It's fantastic.
I need to grab this one.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
man.
That's cool.
So, poetry has been a very healing experience for me personally. Cool. And reading other warriors who have that same idea that poetry ain't dead. We can use poetry.
Hell yeah! It's like wearing pink. Please.
Yeah, right.
Whatever.
So we can use poetry to, as we were saying earlier, to process all that bullshit that we walked away from, that we realized that are still in the recesses of our mind, dude, and that we don't realize that are still there until it's 3 a.m. and you're buzzing hard, and all of a sudden here's like this floodgate of memories. You didn't even mean to open it up, but here's all of a sudden this bullshit that just comes pouring in, you know, and those are demons kicking down the door hard, you know. So for me personally,
well, hold on, what was that one called?
Okay, yep, that's one thing at a time here. This is called Outside the Wire. It's a U.S. Marines collection of combat poems and short stories, and this is by Justin Eggen.
Justin, is he a Marine?
He was a Marine. Right? Yep, he was the guy who did route clearance as a combat engineer. And some of just read that one. Like some of these are very just quick. Whatever one you want.
Under stress, seasoned veterans in salt-covered uniforms perform under stress.
Boom. That's a whole poem. I love it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, we just talked about the salt-covered uniforms too. Never. You sweep left, sweep right, running low on batteries, never sweep at night. Wow.
Cool.
This is cool, man.
It's cool stuff. And I love that it's a niche little group, but I mean, it seems like a tight group, and I'm just kind of getting myself into this, and hopefully this podcast will kind of
reignite them.
Maybe get these guys on here or something like that. And this is last
but not least, I see a name on that I recognize.
Yes, this is my first release. This was actually released in 2009, and I slept on this for quite a bit. I didn't do any advertisements. Okay. This is a self-published book that I designed the cover for, made the documents and everything like that, and then just kind of uploaded it onto. That's yours. You can. Please keep that.
Yeah, because I was gonna say I feel like an asshole because I didn't even know you wrote this.
Yeah, man.
Dude, you have a barcode on the back and everything.
An ISBN and everything.
Dude, you're legit. So is this on Amazon?
It is on Amazon.
Holy
so you can
shit.
find.
Okay, it's called The Silent Whispers of Omens.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great title.
It's dark, man. There's a lot of dark stuff in there. My poetry is a confrontation. It's not an escape. It's a way for me.
Say it again.
My poetry is a confrontation, not an escape.
Oh wow, dude. It's so true, because sometimes we talking about things can suck, but that's important. Just like all the training we did, the suckier the training, the more effective it probably was.
Yeah.
So it's a conflict, that's really cool, man.
Yeah, man. So it's some of that stuff was written when I was just a teenager, and it's very immature. I didn't really do a whole lot of editing. I didn't do a whole lot of editing.
Fuck editing. It's been Fortier. You need no editing. One shot won't kill.
Right. So this is my first book, and I actually just released the new book. I was hoping to get a copy of it today, but it didn't come in time. And that one's called Stones of the Wooded Valley. It's another poetry collection. Very much. So I got digital versions available, and I also have print versions available. Stones of the Wooded Valley is, again, it's another collection of poems that are just, they're confrontational. They're confrontational with grief. They're confrontational with loss, with mental exhaustion, with having moments of emotional distress. So poetry for me has just been such a huge, important healing aspect of my life. And it's great to see other warriors that are taking a similar course and a similar journey, and finding, their voice through poetry.
And, reading it can for sure bring up those thoughts and confrontations, and you're not alone in that. But I bet writing it, we talk about poetry or whatever kind of writing, I bet writing this was like you before you started this versus you after you finished writing this, and the one you just did. I bet you even experienced some healing just from writing these.
Absolutely. Man.
There's one, I just want to read a sentence here if it's okay with you. So it's called "Into the Mouth of Hell, a ring of fire slipped around your finger, face plant into a world of death, chants and of foreign tongues pray a curse, and you've entered another dimension." I remember just hearing those, calls to worship at like 5 a.m, being like, fuck,
what is this? Yeah. Why are we here right now,
and
man?
Praying a curse. Oftentimes it was praying a curse, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. Because sometimes they would come over the loudspeakers and would be calling us out.
Yeah. Americans are over here, go attack them there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Legit.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
No, that's really cool. I'm definitely going to read that. If I can keep that, great. Otherwise, everyone else, Amazon, we'll definitely link to it in the show notes. And get that, even just to, read that and experience that, but also maybe encourage other people to try some writing.
Yes.
Writing, painting, I don't give a shit. Something, whatever you can do to express yourself.
Yes. Yeah. I think especially with men, I think it's I don't want to paint. I don't, write poetry.
It takes some coaxing, right?
Yeah, man. I think it's the arts are super accessible. The arts are super important too, because we are creative beings, man. The thing that sets us apart from the other mammals is that we have the ability to use our imagination and create in the real world. Whether it's engineering, building bridges, building skyscrapers, building cars, designing code, making robots.
Whatever you
think.
We
are creative humans. And I think all the arts should be completely accessible to anyone. Like, who cares if it sucks? Just draw something. Just paint something. Pick up a guitar, fiddle around, diddle with it, try music composition and stuff. I think that stuff is, we talked earlier about, the trifecta of, finding mental, spiritual, and physical outlets.
Right. Outlets. Yeah.
And I think, the arts can very much cover your mental and spiritual outlets.
100%. Yeah. If you do it while riding a bike, now you got all three.
Yeah. There you go.
That's awesome, man. Well, this has been great. I'm so glad we finally connected.
I know, man.
We vanquished these Russian cigars, books I didn't even know existed. A whole even aspect I hadn't even thought about poetry and war. Like, I don't even like watching movies, some of the movies in terms of like war movies, because I'm just like, it's a little bit too realistic. But then poetry, I could see it's a controlled way of experiencing those emotions without the Hollywood drama on it. So that's really cool.
Right. And it feels just so much more real when you read things in this anthology here, in Love and War, poetry. That was like written by like if you look into like the bios of those guys, it's like Army Rangers, Army medics, SF dudes, like it's a wide range of experiences.
Okay, a lot of different guys.
Yeah, so you're going to be able to find something that will speak to you. Absolutely. So
I'm looking at the cover. I just now get it. There's two hands, and I think one's holding a heart.
Yep.
And one's holding a grenade.
Yep.
Hell. Yep. Yeah.
Yep. And then you got like some people on the bottom, and it looks like there's a horizon thing going on, and then you have a couple stick figures holding hands, and then you have a little stick figure over here that is has a rifle. This guy's in like a kneeling position, and this guy's got a rifle. So it's these people are writing this stuff mainly for veterans, to get them to, like you said, to pick up a book and realize, wow, like I can find power in this. I can find healing in this. And I'd love to think that this stuff is just way more accessible than it might have been, 15 years ago or something.
Hell yeah. It's published on Amazon, man. It's on Amazon. It's real.
Mm-hmm.
So that's awesome.
So yeah, man, I've just been doing writing. I've been doing photography. I've been working, and that's kind of my mission right now in my life, is to do stuff like this, these podcasts and stuff.
Right.
I want to continue putting content out there. I want to continue to have our voice be heard as global war and terror veterans,
right.
And just to kind of keep the flag going, man, keep the banner waving, and making sure that we are honoring the men that we served with that didn't come home, and
right.
we're honoring their families in their name, in a positive way.
Yep. Yeah. 100%, man. This has been good. This has been,
the time has flown by, man. I didn't
by.
even look at the clock or anything.
You planned to take notes this whole time?
Yeah, no, I didn't.
Hell
I was
no.
like, nope.
Too much. But, and obviously have you come back on here and talk more. And we even talked about, getting, maybe we'll interview somebody else and put them in the hot seat in the middle, and we can interview them about that. But this has been great, man. It's Mai Tais and sushi next. So
yeah, man. I got an appetite now. So
I know it's also getting cold in here too. I'm like starting to get cold. Yeah. So this has been good. So for everyone out there, this has been Cigars with Marines. If any of this stuff resonated with you, or think about who you could share this with, right? There's somebody out there. So many times we put stuff on Facebook like, oh, don't forget veterans or veteran suicide hotline. But those shares are nice, I guess. But it's reaching out to the guy on your left, guy on your right, and being like, hey, man, so whether it's this, get them this episode, because there's all sorts of things, like there's this book, there's this TV show that Ben's running, like all these different things. So whatever their poison is, they don't have to look at our ugly faces on this thing. They could read the poetry. So, share this with other people, so it doesn't just, stop with whoever we're listening to now. And then also that way you get a chance to then, that could be a mini mission for you. It's just to help somebody else out. Not 30 people, just one person. Who's that one person you can share this with? And yeah, that's a wrap.
You've been listening to Cigars with Marines with Ben Fortier and Casey Cheshire. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you on the next one.